Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome in. If you're watching on YouTube, maybe on Twitter, I'm not going to say X for the life of me. I'm just not going to do it. If you're watching on D Live, you're watching on Trovo, Kick, or maybe even Facebook, but apparently my cell phone is probably watching as well as it's playing back the Game Boy's boot up sound. How about that? Yeah, I'm a millennial back in the day. But want to welcome everyone in. Thank you for joining us. On here, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a special highlight of one of the series that's on my YouTube channel, and that's the Life Lesson series. And what that does is it covers anime and movies, in particular, the life lessons that we can learn from the challenges that the characters go through, whether it's their triumphs, whether it's their failures, and ultimately look at how we can use that to look at what we can do as human beings to become better in our maturity and in our growth. Because here's the thing, we can have a lot of fun, we can play, we can definitely escape reality at times, even though I don't really recommend it. But one thing we should always do, even though we do that, is make sure we're learning the lessons so we can grow. And that's what this series is about. So I hope you'll join me in the next hour or so, maybe 2 hours max. We're going to review the videos that we currently have of the series, and then we're going to have some commentation on it, to which I've got two individuals who are joining me tonight. They were very kind enough to join this bozo of an introvert as a means of entertaining him for a little bit of a while. And for that, we have, and this is probably no stranger to any of you, and that is, of course, one individual first up on special guest, and that is Sir Incubus. You may have seen him before many times on my channel when I'm gaming through certain levels and probably giving some commentary and whatnot. And he is, of course, the voice of your pleasure. So if you want to check him out, here's his availability on YouTube, and also you can check him out on Twitter, if you want to hit him up on there and see some of the awesome art that he does at times. So he draws really interesting stuff, I would say so, even for a Incubus. So Incubus, why don't you let everybody hear your voice of pleasure real quick?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy. You know who it is. But I just gotta say it. Don't mind him. It's fake news. It's fake news. It's fake news. Okay, don't worry about it. Look.
Well,
All you need to know, I love women. That is all.
I think all of us on this panel today love women. And for those of you who are wondering who's that other voice in the background there who's got some silky smooth pipes to him, I'll say that. I'd say it rivals mine, although I'm okay with somebody else taking the spotlight. And that is Omnibus, who is an awesome streamer and also content creator, and someone I've met recently, and me and him just clicked literally almost instantly. With the intellectual conversations I've had with him, I'm definitely glad to have him on this panel. If you want to check him out, by all means, you can check him out on Twitter. And also, he is a streamer on Twitch. I'm kind of getting a little bit on the twitchy side of saying Twitch because of their BS rules that happened recently. But this is his latest stream that he did. So definitely check him out if you're interested on that. So as we move on, just before we get started, I'm pretty sure you're wondering who are these guys related to their avatars. We want to have some kind of visuality of these individuals. Okay, no worries. So here we have our dear Sir Incubus. And then not only, we also have our dear Omni. So gentlemen, welcome in to this stream.
It's good to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
And why am I looking to
Pleasure
the
is
side like
always.
this? I can't see you. I'm looking at my door right now. And we've got
It's
Johnny
okay.
Static
You can
in
have-
the audience.
you can
Johnny, welcome into the stream. And Johnny is our other Weebiteer in the Weeb Cave, along with me and Incubus. So Johnny, welcome in. We'll have to get you on here one of these days when we're obviously basically not going to be having you staying up all night, because I know you probably want to pull it off with coffee, but let's cut your blood vessels a break, okay? Let's cut your blood vessels a break.
Yeah.
So as mentioned before, we're going to get into some videos, and in particular, so we've got two animes that we're going to review the videos of the life lessons. So it's going to be a playback of the life lessons videos that I've already compiled. So we got two animes. One of them is Gundam Seed, as well as Masamune Kun's Revenge. Now, Gundam Seed is going to be a series because it's a series of over 50 episodes, roughly 50 episodes. So I've done the episodes 1 through 5 to start. But of course, that's going to go up as I'm able to produce more of those videos as time goes forth. And then for our selection of movies, we've done one, which was one from my childhood, which is known as Rad. So if you are heavily into BMX racing, that's definitely going to be one for your list. Maybe you might even want to watch it. Then we've also got another series, which in this case is one that really hits home for me, and that's the HBO miniseries Chernobyl. It's a little bit more dark because of the incident surrounding what happened in Chernobyl. For those of you who might not know, Chernobyl was the worst nuclear reactor disaster in human history, and I'd say there are definitely some lessons that need to be learned from that. And you probably asking, what can it? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. And not only that, there's a second episode that I recently produced that I haven't released yet, and you're going to see it tonight.
Ooh.
All right.
So ultimately, the first one we're going to start off with is with Gundam Seed. So as we cue this up, just take a listen to everything. You know, it's not going to be perfect. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some lessons that I missed, but that's okay. If you happen to find some lessons that you got out of it, feel free to leave it in the chat. And me, Incubus, as well as Omni, we're also going to review it, and we'll see what lessons they caught out of my very horrible narration thereof of it.
Oh my
Horrible.
gosh! Shut up! Shut up!
That's the cap. Man, we're already putting a cap on that already.
Hey, I gotta put a cap on it somehow. I gotta put a cap on it somehow. Okay.
Wow.
All right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and begin with the first one, and that is Gundam Seed for the first 5 episodes. So let us begin momentarily. The Japanese anime Gundam Seed is one of my top favorites in my collection because of the story and how much I see it as a reflection of mankind. How about we take a look? Welcome to Life Lessons in Anime. The Gundam Seed anime series is developed by Sunrise and directed by Mitsuo Fukuda. According to Wikipedia, it is the 9th installment in the Gundam franchise. The anime also received a high-definition remaster and has a sequel, Gundam Seed Destiny. The story of Gundam Seed involves tensions among human beings whom, with advancements in biological technology, have generated a division among them by genetic definitions. Naturals, a term for those who were born from the womb of their mother with no enhancements whatsoever, and then coordinators, whom their genes were altered prior to birth, leading to heightened mental and physical abilities. Throughout the early days of coexistence between the two, coordinators were able to perform various tasks with greater skill and strength than naturals were. This led to extreme jealousy among naturals, which escalated to persecution and even hate crimes toward coordinators. To escape the animosity, coordinators migrated to outer space, developing space colonies known as the Plants. However, the Naturals' military organizations consisting of Eurasians, the Atlantic Federation, and the Natural Human Supremacist group known as Blue Cosmos launched a nuclear attack at one of the plant colonies, Junia 7, with the common slogan recited, "For the preservation of our blue and pure world." Following this heinous attack, the plants responded by installing neutron jammers into the Earth's crust, therefore stopping all forms of nuclear reactions on Earth. With anger, rage, and hatred on both sides, Earth and the plants would be consumed by one of the worst forms of interaction, war. So moving forward, I would like to share the life lessons I noticed in this series, starting with the first 5 episodes. Number 1, jealousy is never a valid excuse to attack anyone. For us to attack each other out of jealousy or supremacy is, by common sense and reality, beyond reason. And knowing this, some of us try to furnish whatever excuses we personally believe will be accepted. Sometimes we will even attempt to force people to accept our flawed thinking for the sake of our own image, even when we ourselves have already destroyed it. A portion of Naturals attacked coordinators out of jealousy, and then attempted to justify it with the tagline for the preservation of our blue and pure world, as a means to label coordinators as monsters. Not only was there jealousy among Naturals, there was also fear. When someone is able to do something better than the one observing, and they are insecure within their own character and talents, fear can take dominance and cause instincts of survival to activate. Therefore, the tagline by Blue Cosmos is inconsistent, as the motive is not to preserve a blue and pure world, but to preserve a self-image. Plus, what in their actions actually represent purity? You may recognize this among our peers. When someone is different in whatever common cases, and they may also possess a higher skill set, some people will react with persecution toward the individual, sometimes as far as defamation, just to make themselves look or feel better. If we have to harm others just to elevate ourselves, what value do we really have to begin with? But that doesn't mean we have to stay there. Number 2, altercations can happen anytime, anywhere, and to anyone. When there is hatred and arrogance in the hearts of people, there is a high risk that there will be little to no consideration.
We got a
about
request
where they
for a pause, so we're going to pause it right here. What do you got?
All right. I think we should discuss. I think we should really just discuss each thing as it comes, because I mean, there's gonna be a lot to swallow with this one.
That's fine.
And also, we had a little bit of an echo at the peak.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay, I'll double check. I'll double check some stuff, but go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
I will have to agree. Probably by segments, because this one segment alone touches on a good number of facets.
Oh, by a million. Let's dive in.
All right. So when it comes down to it, they were by core, they were humans. They were human. They were both humans. There was no differentiation until they was getting augmented and altered into becoming to that point, having more physical strength, stamina, basically doing more things better than a regular normal person would do. But from that alone, that sparked the division between them. But ultimately, it didn't have to even be a division. It was, but as you said, it was by jealousy and probably even a self-image issue, because nowadays people would take what we are as a ground level and anything beyond that as abnormality or a conceit as a form of being unnatural, as shown in the anime itself. But even if it's literally like standing in front of a person and looking face to face, like you really could not tell the difference between the two, aside from like physical performance, which that in of its own definitely shows how far ignorance can really go, and how ignorance, jealousy, and basically kind of blindsidedness.
And
Uh,
I'm just
yeah.
asking. That's
No,
what
go.
you
What word?
No, I was just asking if you meant envy.
Envy. Yes, thank you.
There you go. Continue.
Thank you. 10 points to Gryffindor.
Actually, I'm a Ravenclaw.
10 points to Ravenclaw.
Oh my
you.
gosh, here we go.
Suck on it, Gryffindors.
This guy. This friggin' guy.
But yeah, like envy is the quickest and probably most deadliest thing out there, next to the idea. Because an idea is always free roaming. It can pass from one person to another, and it can always be alternating and changing. But envy for something that is better than the previous idea that is actually improved upon is probably the very crutch of pretty much where we cannot really progress as a people, because that is going to be the fastest thing that we will look at, because, oh, this person's different. This person can perform better. This person can run faster. This person can do all these fantastical things. Why not me? Why can't I do that? And there's so many things just in that one thing of envy itself
Mm-hmm.
that really just shake the foundations of where we are and
Yeah.
where we can properly progress.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Ink?
All right, my turn.
Yeah.
My turn. Okay, all right. So the way how I see it is this is just a textbook situation that you tend to come in with any form of distinction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like the analogy that by making somebody stand out by putting them on a scale of, like, let's say, first to last, you're creating a difference. You're creating a scale of difference here,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now people are being measured by what they can do in this situation. And the worst part about it is that a lot of times when we create these scales of measurements and these things in order to see who to value more than others or who is of greater value,
Mm-hmm.
it always tends to affect somebody's self-image, especially mentally.
Mm-hmm.
People always beat themselves up over, oh well, I wasn't able to do it as good as Sound, or I wasn't able to do it as good as Omni,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm the bad one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like I'm not good enough, and it's like we really need to come to an understanding
Yeah.
within ourselves of self-acceptance a lot of times.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that they have like issues with that until they get there.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a big slap in the face for everybody who hasn't had the time to basically work on themselves, and the people who don't want to work on themselves and use it as an excuse. And then they used, oh well, we're gonna destroy this plant as an excuse because, oh yeah, we're trying to protect our. You ain't trying to protect nothing. You trying to protect your ego.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's, you ain't trying to protect no damn world. The world needed protecting years ago. Look at how the environment is. Look at the ozone layer. Look at what's happening. Okay? The roads we're building are putting more smog in the goddamn sky than a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like let's stop bullshitting and let's be real about it.
Yeah.
If you really care about the world,
Yeah.
your ass would have gone to space and built your own place to be.
Yep.
You didn't need to destroy somebody else's place because, oh, we're trying to protect our world. Yeah, why? Why?
And
Why
here's
do
the
you
crazy
feel? Why do
part.
you feel so scared though about it?
And here's the crazy part. It was naturals that went into the science and engineering that developed coordinators.
Of
Yep.
course. But you see, that's the thing, right? People always use the analogy of, oh, we always use science and we open up Pandora's box. But majority of times, it's not that we open up Pandora's box. We just made something that wasn't possible,
Mm-hmm.
and now somebody wants to use it for their own nefarious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It's the same thing with majority of stuff that exists, stuff that even like electricity. And then there's like weapons that are used in war, that a lot of the weapons that were used in war actually put forward a lot of the industrial things that we have today. A lot of that was made during warring times in order to get an edge on the enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So, like, humanity thrives in conflict. And honestly, I feel like a lot of it is generated from outside sources, but yet still there's always the inside part where people don't work on themselves well enough, and we don't talk about mental health enough. We don't deal with these issues, and we let them fester until they become, oh well, I can't turn back now. I've come too far.
Good point. Real good
You
Yeah.
point
know?
of just, somehow you can't turn back because you're in this now. But the thing is if that
You can
particular
stop.
method is not working, if it's yielding bad outcomes, why stay in a form of dysfunction, if you will, just for dysfunction's sake, or just for
Agreed.
decision's sake?
Agreed. But you know what it is? It's the comfort of knowing that it's not your fault. A lot of people try to convince themselves that it's not. Oh, it's not my fault, man. It's not my fault that this is going on. It's not my fault that I got mad and shouted at that lady and I lost my job.
Mm-hmm.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
Like some customers are trash, but at the end of the day, you have to have enough self control in order to get out of there.
Yeah. We got a
Leave a
comment right
bad
quick.
situation.
We got a comment right quick from Johnny. It sounds to me that some folks are just bent out of shape because they can't do the same as others. It's all foolish to me. Very,
Well,
very, very good observation.
right,
Definitely,
right.
and
It
it goes back
really
to
is.
everything all that we've said
Hmm.
is, why there's no point in comparing ourselves to others because even though others may be perceiving them as superior, does that
Hmm.
necessarily mean that they are?
No, it's a it's a catch-22 of where people want to feel powerful, and the only way they know how to feel powerful is not, get within their power, get within what their power is, what their talents are. They don't go forward with what they love,
Mm-hmm.
and bring it more into the world, and get more into their element.
Mm-hmm.
What they look to do is to drag somebody else down with them,
Yeah,
to put them underneath them
Mm.
and hold them down.
indeed.
And the craziest thing in this whole thing is the fact that they knew the division that they had in
Mm-hmm.
terms of physicality
Mhm.
and attributes, to the point that they had to go out in space. So they were literally just minding their own business
Uh-huh.
away from to already have the perceived separation,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mhm.
it was already bad enough in that regard,
Mm-hmm.
but to also have to be attacked only because very strong believers saying that they were destroying Earth because they're not being normal, they're not being human, like true natural born humans. It's like
Mhm.
that is just absurd.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not really absurd. Have you ever seen any of the movements we humans have going on at this point in time? Regardless of if it's the pro-life or pro-choice or any of that other stuff, a lot of
Too
people
many.
getting super angry about what other people are doing with their body, when honestly, it's none of your damn business. Stay
Agreed.
out of it. Like that don't got nothing to do with you.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is we may have the right to our opinion, but we
Yes.
don't have the right to force others to conform to our opinion.
Right. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, sure, there's some facts out there that, like, certain things aren't particularly good for you. But at the end of the day, you get into these arguments with people. You get very, very hot and bothered, and you wish death on them. Then why not let them end themselves in their own way? Since you think that, oh, what they're doing is so unhealthy and it's not good for them, let them continue until they decide either to change or not.
That's all you really can do. And
Right.
and it's furthermore just take that as a heads up that make sure you yourself don't get caught up in that kind of dimensional limbo in a way.
Actually, you know what's the funniest thing? It's always the people that are the diehardest, who are always trying to stop somebody else from living their lives, that are living in such depravity, and holding themselves back the most. It's like, oh, I'm holding myself back. I'm not being a bad person. So why are you allowed to be a bad person? It's just the envy again,
Mm-hmm.
to be
Hmm.
realistic.
Yeah.
It's not even like, oh, well, I had my kids, and they turned out fine, even though I didn't particularly want them. But then when you look at the lady's kids, the kids that she didn't aborted, that she should have probably aborted, the kids have had terrible childhoods and have mental issues now because of that trauma even. Ooh, well, you might as well have done it.
Well, even more so in the case as to where some folks even just conceive children because there was a jealousy there of what other folks who conceived children had, but yet
Oh
they
yeah.
didn't have the discipline to even take care of the children and to nurture them
Mm-hmm.
properly, but they just wanted
Mm-hmm.
a child.
Right. And then there's also the baby trapping and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And that's on both sides.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
on both sides. That's not a lady thing, and it's not a guy thing. It's a people thing.
Mm-hmm.
And people
Yeah.
need to step away from trying to point and say, well, oh, only guys do this or only girls. You don't know enough of the world to say what only anything does, because humans are capable of as much evil as they are of good.
Yeah. There's good and
Yep.
evil in everyone's heart. It's just a
Yeah.
matter now of which one you're going to choose for that moment. You're going to choose good or you're going to choose evil.
Amen.
We are off to an absolutely fiery start. I love it. I love it, guys. Let's move. Let's keep it moving along. We could be on this all day, honestly.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
each of us could be on this
Oh,
all
we
day.
could, but this is just awesome. And you know what? I really think that this is going to bring some hope to those who may be looking for this kind of affirmation, but are just a little bit hesitant to want to even ask. So
I honestly hope so. Yeah.
definitely kudos.
Johnny said something.
We'll have Johnny for the last comment on this. We all have one life in this world, and that's it. It may sound very conny, but we should lead to help ourselves and others to grow and to build something we can all be proud of. Profound statement there, Johnny. Thank you for that.
I
All right,
completely agree with him.
let's see what we
Very.
got. Let's see what we got for the next one. Great dialogue so far, folks. It's awesome. Altercations can happen anytime, anywhere, and to anyone. When there is hatred and arrogance in the hearts
We
of
got the
people,
double.
there is a high risk that there will be
See where it's
little
coming
to
from.
no consideration about where they express it or who they express it to. We can be the most innocent of bystanders and still be caught in the crossfire. In Gundam
There's like
Seed,
a
we have tech college students
millisecond
Kira
delay
Yamato,
slightly,
Muriel
I
Hao,
guess.
Tall Koenig,
I'll look
Kazi
for it.
Buskirk, and Cy Argyle, along with many other bystanders, all directly caught up in the crossfire between the Earth Forces military and the plant military forces known as ZAFT, which stands for Zodiac Alliance of Freedom Treaty. And here's the
That's what
wild
that meant?
card.
Oh.
The students
Crazy.
were in a space colony named Heliopolis, which was a neutral territory. However, for some reason, weapons development was taking place on this neutral colony for the Earth forces. How many times have we been somewhere, most likely minding our own business, and either we ourselves or someone else are suddenly attacked by a stranger, to which the reasoning in that point in time happens to be of prejudice and or hate? So when we ask why something like that is happening to us, understand that bad things happen to good people too. Sometimes it's not anything that we did, but just that we were at that particular place at that time, unknowing to us what was to happen. When it comes to war and even interpersonal conflict, with untamed temperaments, no place is safe. Number 3,
I think I found
war
it.
and conflicts
You
can
can
challenge
pause.
morality
We
and
got.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right, go for it.
You found it, bro.
I think I did.
Let's hear of your triumph, my brother.
No, what it was is, all right, so there's two different mixes going on. There's one mix that's going to, for Discord, that's feeding these gentlemen here so they can hear me. And then there's another mix going to an actual video feed that they're seeing of this. So what happened was the playback was going to both of those mixes versus only one.
Ah, I got you. Fair. Makes
Okay.
sense. Because I know I heard like a millisecond delay a couple times. I was like, is that an echo?
Because when I
Like,
faded it out, were you still able to hear it?
Not so much at the.
No, not really.
Okay. So I'm going to wind it back for a second. See, it's not a stream without scuff, folks. It's not a stream
The life-
without scuff.
Yeah, that's just facts.
All right, stranger, to which the reasoning in that point in time happens to be of prejudice
hang on.
and or hate.
So with this,
So when we ask why something like that is happening to us, understand that bad things. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think you guys were able to hear that, were you not?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were able
That
to
was
hear.
good.
Actually, it
Okay.
was louder. Actually, which is good. You know,
Okay.
I get
Yep.
to hear sound in like surround sound.
Oh
Which
my
is always
gosh,
good.
this freaking guy. Okay. All right, so gentlemen, would you like to commentate on that in particular? Gentlemen,
Mm-hmm.
would you like to commentate on this second one?
Oh yes, yes,
Yeah, go for
definitely.
it. All
But
right,
I
go
mean,
for it.
Omni first, and then me.
Go for it.
All right,
we-
throw me
we've
under the
created
bus. All
a-
right.
We've created a little thingy.
It pretty much everything you stated is very true, regardless of whether you're neutral to everything that's happening or you're on the side of wanting to make change or you're on the side that wants to preserve it. Regardless of the fact, altercation, what you said is true. Altercation can and hopefully not happen as frequently, but it sadly will happen.
Yeah.
So as so with that being said, we do see this quite a lot, like everywhere, as becoming more and more predominant um, within each within each hell. It seems like it happens every 5 years. There's always something big that kind of takes up a pocket within those times. From the race between blacks and whites, then Asians, uh, then now we have the LGBT community. We have now more solidified with trans. It's one thing after another, and with each and every passing iteration between each and all of these, they all share the same facet,
Hmm.
where it's always one opposition that wants to uphold peace, but then the opposite will start something regardless of the fact of there is no real weight of justification. It's just because of the fact that they are different and they just wanted to incite something. And then there's
Hmm.
just people who are just wanting to stay neutral to all of it. They just want to live their life, just be happy for where they are. But regardless of that, sadly to say, there are just people that just would rather start fires than to try and figure out a way to resolve the fire and a make a controlled fire, something that can be that both sides can be proud of and hold a torch to. But instead, someone wants to just light the fire and watch everything burn instead. And
Yeah. And if I
if
may
we,
interject right quick
yes,
too, especially with one in particular, like even just from the, because mentioned all the other groups that is having a problem, but even just from male to females, from a heterosexual standpoint, there's also a huge divide going on.
yes, it's it's a bit okay. Sorry if I sighed there, but it is pretty tiring because it's gotten to the point that I we are slowly starting to fight on a rudimentary and elementary level of topics that we as as the human race should know, like common sense wise.
Hmm.
But it's like that still doesn't, even if it's still very silly in terms of a discussion piece of what these are, that does not by any stretch of the imagination deserve to be lashing out at another person with physical altercations or anything of the sort like that. No
Absolutely.
one deserves any of that,
No.
not in the slightest.
And it doesn't bring forth the conclusion that we want. Sir Incubus?
Right.
Righty. You know I love to get on in this.
This guy. This guy.
Okay, we put away the evil witch laughter today. But yeah, here we go. All right, altercations happens all the time. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Reminds me of that time when I was a kid and I had got like a good old kick in the face the moment that I turned around. I got it, bro. I got hit so hard. Oh, that was a day. But you see, this is why I always tell people that at the end of the day, you have to keep yourself safe. I'm not telling you that you step outside, you need to go outside in like freaking body armor, strapped to the nines with knives and guns. No. I'm telling you to observe what's going on around you. You see some stuff going on, some shady behavior, somebody acting up a little strange or something, you be ready to move and get
Mhm.
yourself out of that situation as soon as possible. You
Mhm.
don't have to fight. It doesn't have to be a conflict. And even though people push for it, doesn't mean you have to give in and give them what they want. No, altercations don't mean that it's always a fight. It could be some caring, some argument, it could be anything. It could just be like a family member trying to get a rise out of you. Right? People always try to get their way through you from trying to issue some sort of response. If you don't give them it, sometimes they get bored and they leave. Sometimes they push a little harder. But at the end of the day, their behavior is going to form a pattern and people are going to notice that what they're doing is wrong at some point.
Yep.
But if you give in, it's going to get turned on you as soon as possible,
Yep.
Yes.
to be completely fair. And that is one of the worst things that I hate about it. And that's why it's very exhausting to be around people who want to constantly fight you. on everything. It's why a lot of movements and stuff that even though they might be for the greater good or trying to form peace or trying to inform people about what's going on, they end up like a lot of them end up like boiling down and just being like, well, you know what? I'm not trying to fight everybody every day of my life. It's because it's an exhausting thing, and there's some people out there who they live on conflict. Have you seen Twitter? Look,
Oh boy.
people love conflict. Some people out there love conflict because they can remain anonymous while they do it.
Mm.
That's why you don't have to listen to everybody that tweets and is like, "Oh yeah, like I really hate the fact that you made her like this, or are you like this is like in the art scene or any other scene.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you do, there's always going to be somebody who pops up and says something wild, because a lot of people like to go for the wow factor in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these cases, right? Because there's a lot of eccentrics, a lot of little edge lords, a lot of little baby guys and baby girls out there who think that they are the ones, right? But
Yes,
let's be
indeed.
real. Oh wait, we got John.
Yep, got
Yeah.
Johnny here. It's all about the choices we all make, and I'm sure most would not want war with each other at all. But what we need is a true and honest open space to speak to each other and to find a way to peace. Very well
I
said. The
mean,
thing about it
mm,
is there has to be a heart for reconciliation and a heart for a healthy compromise.
hmm
Because one of the thing is we want our way, but what we don't realize or what we fail to consider is sometimes our way can be narcissistic.
Mm.
yep,
So what are we really striving for? And that's when it really comes down to truth, and fact and reality. See, a lot of folks don't want to deal with truth, and this is just my observation. Is I think truth has been disrespected in what its actual purpose is. In that saying truth hurts. Well, here's the thing. I get what they're actually trying to say, but I think what it is if we really look at it, it's the misconduct that hurts. It's the aftermath of the misconduct. It's the consequences for misconduct that's hurting us. The truth just informed us because the truth wants to free us from that captivity of deception.
there.
Very.
But when we are so hard-headed, again, that's no fault of the truth, but the truth is going to fulfill its purpose. Reality is going to fulfill its purpose. And when you pick a fight with those type of existences, you've already lost.
He's not lying.
Hmm.
In fact, he is honestly saying the right thing. Because I mean, to be fair, it's I mean, it's one that really got to me in like recent time, like when COVID was going on,
Hmm.
right, is that there were people who were having peaceful protests, right? The media barely covered that shit.
Hmm.
They went straight to everybody who was out there looting and stuff, saying, "Oh, this is all because of BLM and stuff." And I'm like, I look at the crowd.
Oh boy.
Majority of the people there ain't black, and I'm
Yeah.
like, wow. I was seriously saying like, yeah, this is BLM's fault. And I'm like, hey, I mean, I ain't even going to defend BLM because I heard of the shady shit that happened at the end. My whole thing is this: in every movement, there are gonna be detractors. There are gonna be people who try to dash it with their own level of salt
Hmm.
and mess it up, because too much salt is not good for you
Hmm.
Yeah.
in any situation.
Hmm.
So what we end up with is we end up with some people who genuinely care about situations and social issues, and then we end up with another set of people who they don't give a shit. Some who might slightly agree, and it's like it's the left right mentality in general,
Hmm.
where there are the extremes, there's the middle grounds of the conservative and the liberals, and then there's the middle ground of like you don't really agree with both sides either, but people don't realize that there's ranges. Everybody's like, are you left or are you right? And I feel like honestly that does a disservice to a lot of movements and a lot of discussions whenever there's an altercation, is
Hmm.
that people don't want to acknowledge the nuances to things,
Yeah. There is a
because at the end of the day
hmm
it's like the case with like pro life and pro choice, right?
hmm
Mm.
On one end, I can understand if you're using abortions as like a situation where you're just trying to get rid of the kid because you didn't want it at all,
hmm
right? I could understand why somebody could be upset about that.
But then on the other end, you shouldn't be stopping somebody from getting an abortion because sometimes they're necessary for somebody to survive. Some people are not made to have kids. It destroys their body and it destroys them. It kills them. And sometimes you end up with two people dead instead of one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and even if it doesn't kill them, it's still going to scar them mentally and for the longer run, which could be worse off.
yeah. So I mean, to be real, a lot of people are dipping their hands into these pots and being like, I agree with this and I agree with that and I this and that. And a lot of times these people don't have any reason to be in there. At the end of the day, the abortion should be between the two people who conceived the child. Okay?
Mm.
If it's that the guy wants to have the kid and the lady doesn't want to have the kid, I mean it's her body. I guess we gotta say like, well, there is that.
Yeah. Well, if I may interject that too, because just to say from both sides,
Uh-huh.
if the argument's going to be her body, her choice, then to balance that, why not his wallet, his choice?
No, I mean I get
Mm.
you on that. I'm not disagreeing with you.
No,
I'm just
I'm
saying
not
that.
saying it for you. I'm not saying it for you, but just for
I'm
the
saying
Just
that
kind of as a general, yeah.
for
I'm
just the
saying that
general
there's
address.
no,
Yeah.
I got you. But my thing is this: if they can come to a compromise and talk about it,
Hmm.
and let's say she gives birth to the kid,
Hmm.
and then she basically signs over the rights to the father, and the
Hmm.
father takes care of the child, then that's not an issue either.
Yeah.
Why can't we do this?
Here's the wrench. Here's the wrench in that, and it goes back to the first life lesson within this very video, the
Uh huh.
jealousy. Because especially if there are times to where the other partner may still have or may still desire connection with the father in this particular scenario. Now
Hmm.
there's an argument of, well, why does my child get the attention of the man I want?
Well, I could understand what you're saying. I've heard some horror stories about like the is postpartum depression. I think that's the correct
Okay.
term.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, and stuff. But I mean, to be real, like I said, as a man, I don't really have a foot in this race.
Hmm.
Okay, my whole thing is I'm trying to get us. I'm trying to get people to see
Hmm.
that it's not just abort or keep the kid because of your Christian values or some other thing. Like at the end of the day, you can have your values and everything, but that there's no cause, there's no rhyme, no reason for you to put your values on somebody else.
Yeah.
We live in society, and this society works off of understanding each other and understanding each other's needs. That was the beginning and the end of society. That's what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah. So I'll close this portion with this.
Mm,
all right.
Understanding does not necessarily mean agreement.
agreed.
So just to put that out there. The other thing is we have to get back to embracing accountability, because accountability itself is not an enemy. It's actually a coach. It is a coach that helps train us to be more responsible with our decisions and our actions. So, in the case of child conception, we know what the purpose of intercourse is. So, with that being known, there's always a risk anytime that activity is conducted that conception is possible, even with the common man made products to reduce that
Mm,
possibility. So in that, you got to look at what the best course of action is to avoid it altogether. So the same thing with an altercation. The best way to survive an altercation or a fight is don't be in one. So the best way to avoid any kind of conception is probably just not engage in the activity that is supposed to produce it to begin with.
no, you know what? That works, but then also I think we have to acknowledge that yes, some people may not have the discipline for that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah,
So I would say
I'm not going to argue
in
against that.
the best thing to possibly do in this case is to not go in blind.
Oh,
Understand what you're dealing with and really take the time to understand the mechanisms at play.
Yeah,
Don't just get into it because oh it's easy and oh you love him or you love her. At this point, you need to understand what you're getting into because when you do get into it, there ain't no getting out majority of
yeah.
the time
So
unscathed.
again,
yeah.
accountability, definitely.
Yep.
And if, good comment from our friend Johnny here, or have a lot of cold showers just to make sure. Okay, Johnny.
A lot of cold
Okay,
showers.
John.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the scene in Ace Ventura when he like kissed the head of the department, and then found out later on that she was a guy.
Oh yeah, that's it.
He's like,
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Yeah, that was the thing.
poor
Absolutely.
guy, poor guy.
All right, folks, let's go ahead and move on to the next one.
There.
Number 3, war and conflicts can challenge morality and mental health to the limit. In the military, orders from superior officers are to be followed, and disobedience thereof can lead to severe consequences. In war, there is a strong urge for survival, and the common way to survive in that atmosphere is to eliminate the defined enemy. But who is the actual enemy, and under what basis makes them an enemy? Atherin Zala, a Zaft soldier and coordinator who enlisted after the death of his mother caught in the Junius 7 nuclear attack, encountered his long-term friend Kira Yamato, who is also a coordinator, during the attack at Heliopolis, and they were shocked to see each other under such circumstances. With evacuation lifeboats unavailable to the 5 tech college students and now somewhat involved in the battles at the colony, Kira, who was pushed into the cockpit of the GAT X-105 strike mobile suit by Maru Ramius, intervened in the operation of the mobile suit to save his friends, who are naturals, from the attack by the Zaft mobile suit. And just like that, Kira became involved, and all he wanted to do was evacuate, but when unable to and dragged in, also had to do what he felt was necessary to save his friends. This is a decision we all have to make at times when altercations occur and we are direct witnesses. And if someone is going to get hurt and we have the undeniable ability to affect the results of the altercation, do we intervene or do we stay back? To which at that point, if we do intervene, afterwards, we may be looking at scenarios where we are directed by authorities to give statements, appear in court, etc. After treating an injured Maru and assistance with the strike, the tech students found themselves under a certain detainment since they viewed highly classified military equipment. It did not help that a few of the students were exploring the cockpit of the strike unauthorized, prompting Maru to take authoritative action. This sparked a verbal argument against the detainment, for one, helping Maru in her injured state, and two, the fact that none of the students wanted anything to do with the war. Nevertheless, they were detained and directed to assist Maru with the strike, particularly Kira, due to his abilities to pilot the machine. In one progression of travel, as the Earth Force's officers inside Heliopolis, along with the teen students escaping the colony in the newly developed warship, the Archangel, Kira, while piloting the strike, discovered a damaged lifeboat vessel from the colony and brought it to the ship. Nataro Badgerul declined authorization to bring the lifeboat aboard as they are in the middle of a war and a battle can erupt at any moment, plus the fact that relief forces were en route to the location. Not wanting to waste time, the newly Captain Maru Ramius authorized the retrieval of the lifeboat. Come to find out, this vessel contained another tech college student known by the other 5. Put a bookmark at this encounter as it will resurface in the coming parts of the series. Switching over to Atherin's challenges for a moment, his commanding officer, Raoul LeCreuset, is aware that the pilot of the strike is Atherin's longtime friend, and Commander LeCreuset offers to remove Atherin from the portion of operations involving contact with the strike, not wanting to burden Atherin with the thought of raising a weapon against his friend. Atherin declines and pleads to be allowed to persuade Kira to join Zaft. However, Commander LeCreuset questions Atherin what he would do if Kira declines. It should also be remembered that another friend of Atherin's and fellow Zaft soldier, Miguel Ayman, was slain by the hands of Kira. While it was in self-defense, the overall atmosphere of the situation is that they are in the middle of a war, and in the eyes of the military, anyone who raises a weapon against them will be considered an enemy. Atherin responds that he will apply the necessary elimination tactics on Kira should he refuse. However, Atherin's facial expression is clearly not of confidence, but sadness. These are tough decisions we ourselves have to make at times. In a scenario where a loved one of ours acts out of line and has no desire to reconsider their actions, we have a choice whether to continue in vain to persuade them, or in a less extreme case than Gundam Seed's circumstances, leave the person be until they are ready to reconcile properly. And if they act out to the point their actions are a threat to our own safety and others, will we take the appropriate action to stop the threat, even if it means the ultimate form of sacrifice? Moving back to Kira, still agitated with having to pilot the strike, he continued reluctantly as a means to protect his friends. Seeing the turmoil their friend underwent, a discussion involving Mirialia, Tal, Sai, and Kazi resolved in them agreeing to assist in the Archangel's operations, mainly as a means of supporting Kira. Therefore, the takeaway can be that doing things alone in such tense circumstances can be significantly discouraging, and in receiving help, especially from those you have a trusting relationship with, can lighten the burden. Upon launching out of the Archangel and into space for another battle, Kira is confronted by Athrun in the GAT-X303 Aegis and is questioned why Kira is siding with the Naturals. Kira responds that he is not with the Earth forces but is simply protecting his friends who are aboard the ship. Kira then reciprocates, questioning why Athrun has involved himself in the war, reciting Athrun's words of hating it. When it comes to conflict, loyalty is better placed in what is right and morally correct, not in taking sides based on particulars of affiliation. Every person is susceptible to misguided thinking. Therefore, use of the moral compass stands a better chance of proper resolve than only personal views. When each party takes responsibility for their actions and applies the proper correction, conflicts are less likely to escalate to war or interpersonal conflicts. Some naturals took a chance by using technology to advance humans beyond natural means, and because of that, in a way, Pandora's box was opened. Even so, this does not give naturals the right to try correcting their supposed mistake by way of mass genocide. At the same time, there was mention of some coordinators talking down about naturals, so there is now an argument among some coordinators that naturals should no longer exist, as if they are somehow now obsolete. So you have the arrogance of some naturals in false belief of their genetic purity, while with some coordinators, their false belief of their human evolution via genetics. There is no mention among either side in their corresponding views regarding character or integrity. The qualification of human existence is based solely on genetics from both sides. How many times do we see this with certain people treating others in disrespectful mannerisms? It appears this anime's top life lesson addresses the insanity of prejudice and maybe even racism and bigotry. In a battle between Kira, Athrun, and 3 other accomplices with Athrun, Kira was captured by Athrun, and he attempts to take Kira back to the Zaft ship, the Vesalius. This was a direct disobedience of orders to destroy the strike, but Athrun attempts to justify the disobedience, addressing using the strike to their advantage if they capture it. However, Athrun's ultimate goal was to capture Kira. Kira, who attempted to break free, was pleaded by Athrun to stop struggling, so Athrun would avoid having to shoot him down. Ultimately, Athrun is trying to save his best friend from the common negative aftermath of war when on opposing sides. But the capture was interrupted by Commander Mula Flaga in the Mobius Zero Earth Force's mobile armor. By equipping the strike with alternative equipment, Kira and Commander LaFlaga were able to chase off Athrun and the other mobile suits that were in Zaft's possession. Forced to retreat and upon return to the Vesalius, Isaac Joule, who is shown to be significantly prideful and hot-tempered, unleashed a disappointment toward Athrun for his actions, to which it took the influence of Nicola Malfi to convince Isaac that venting his frustration on Athrun would not change the circumstances. This is something all of us struggle with one time or another. We oftentimes have a passion for what we do and pursue our tasks with a sense of excellence. But when it comes to working with others and they mess up, it is very tempting to become upset about missing the mark and vent our frustration out on them. In cases where a party is aware they dropped the ball, rubbing it in does nothing to advance the situation. Therefore, it is important for us to keep our egos and anger in check, as failure to do so can lead to carelessness, which can have devastating consequences. Meanwhile, back at the Archangel, the trauma of war has shown to take its toll on a few individuals in particular, one of them being Kira. Upon the cockpit of the strike being opened, Kira is shown severely shaken. Kira is not a soldier at this time. He had never been trained for the situations he encountered, and he had no interest in combat to begin with. Some of us have that same spirit in which we prefer more peaceful solutions in the face of conflict. However, when we are pushed to the point where we must fight, just as when an animal is cornered, we will fight by any means necessary until the threat is neutralized. However, the first experience in such scenarios is always mentally and emotionally overwhelming. Flay Ulster, who is Sai's arranged fiancé, is another apparent victim of the traumatizing effects of war. During battle, all kinds of noises filled the ship, from alarms to shuddering of the ship due to abrupt movement or weapon impact, weapons firing, etc. All of these elements of stimuli, with no clear perception of what is going on and no guarantee of the outcome to an untrained recipient, can lead to severely heightened levels of fear and anxiety. Even interpersonal conflicts can cause the same kind of trauma. That'll put the wraps on this video.
Okay, guys, what do you got for that?
Oh boy, there was a lot to say from that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, definitely from my end, especially since I've served 10 years in the active service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I will definitely. It decisions become very. We have. How can I put this? Basically, when it comes down to a lot of things, sometimes just a simple yes or no can, without any context, without any legitimacy, becomes a much more like very known underlying issue. And it should be simple, but that can be a lot more detrimental.
Yeah, it's the nuances.
Yeah. But that's the problem that we've been getting more and more into, is that we don't really take into account of the nuances and context of the actions that are going to be laid out and the weight that each decision will ultimately play on. The fact that we constantly being in debates about one thing or another, and sometimes ultimately choosing just like, hey, are you conservative? Hey, are you a liberal? Hey, are you this? And then saying yes or no to that, ultimately just without any context. Like, you could be immediately seen as, all right, you're an ally, or immediately you are an enemy, without any connotation, any rhyme or reason, nothing to really build upon. You are just instantly an enemy. And that has been a major problem that we've been building up for society as a whole, because we want to just get straight to the answer. We become to the point of we want answers now. We don't want details anymore. We just want the answer. But that's the problem. It's like we can get an answer, but that's not going to be. But without really digging into what it means, it can mean 1,000 different directions than what it could be.
Definitely.
And I could definitely count on my hands, which I'm pretty sure I can definitely run out of even that, of instances where higher supervision would give us a task and tell us it's for this reason and we need it done. But at the same time, it's like that is almost impossible. Or we can do it, but at the same time, you are putting people to work like well over 13 or 14 hours for something that is some completely arbitrary for one whole thing. But ends up the whole task is just, well, you came here for a purpose, and regardless of that, like this needs to be done. No ifs, ands, or buts. There was no moments of like, yeah, maybe we should sit down, take a moment to look at this, because we could literally do this same thing tomorrow, have all the time in the world, but you want to rush this out, have people work well over their time just to have it ready for something that's going to be that needs to be done within like 3 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's it's abs it's very problematic, and that's probably not the grandest example, but military life is in and of its own is is like that. It can be very much like that. And though and I've seen people that take the very common sense of in a already kind of ridiculous standing and get kind of chastised for it, or had their positions swapped out because of the fact that they were making sense. They were like trying to like fight against the higher position, even though in the end game result it still was the same. It was just not at their time frame. It okay, maybe I'm getting a little off the point. The point is the point is we are taking too many we are taking too many shortcuts and trying to give a direct answer, but never taking the time to really understand what we're signing up for. And the more we continue to do this, the more opposition will more enemies and oppositions from people that don't even want to be involved, people that will just want to live their days or just to really like have a table for both sides can sit down and really address what is going on. It's like, are you? It's like, are you conservative? Yes. Okay. Tell me why are you conservative? It's like, what are the things that you like being a conservative? What are the things that you don't like being conservative? See, these things are the building blocks of the conversation and topics that we need to have more of. But the problem is we always go with, are you conservative? Yes. Okay. I don't like you. We're not going to talk ever again. Good day. But that you may find out that that conservative person that you said don't like may have so many more things in common with you that y'all could actually come to a common ground and make something more. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. You're right. That is absolutely fucking stupid. Like, I also agree with that. But and then it might even be eye-opening experience of some of the things that you yourself on your side, being liberal or Democratic, whatever the case may be, that like you might start looking at your side and it's like, you know, that my side does some kind of wacky shit. and y'all can find that common ground. That's the thing that we are losing is our common ground. We need to have a place where we can see the conflicts that both sides are having and understand that this is something that everyone's going to be involved in, not just ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Sir Incubus?
I know. All right. Okay. Let's start off in the right way. I completely agree with what he's saying because that's what I've been talking about this entire time. What I've been trying to illustrate of my examples of being like, well, you know, the pro life and stuff is like a lot of people are just so gun ho on yes or no, but they don't ask why and why not. But then also John said something really nice where he was saying that we need to get rid of the idea left and right because it's this poisonous idea that people love to label things. You know, it's part of who we are as people. It's the same way like how I was talking to a friend the other day and I was like, you know that our eyes decide majority of what we think? Because the way how we see things, the way how we perceive things, you could see a person limping and think, well, yeah, maybe he hurt himself. That person could have been born with that limp. You don't even know. But your first assumption coming from the information that you're picking up from your eyes is this person might have been hurt because they're not walking normally. But that might be their normal.
Yeah. Let me just read his full comment here. That's why the idea of left or of right or left is nothing more than poison that was made to make us blind to seeing the truth. And that's why we all need to be ready to become something more than what we are now.
I completely agree with him because I think We need more people who are willing to sit down and have conversations, regardless of which side of the table you're on. There shouldn't be any sides. We're all people. We all experience life. At the end of the day, we can have the same struggles and be in two different households, have two different skin colors, or come from two different ethnicities, two different cultures, and have the same experience. The human experience is unifiable. The issue is just that, yeah, not everybody experiences the same thing. And some people are ignorant to that and think that, oh yeah, like, haha, it's a joke, it's funny, haha, you went through this thing, and some people make light of it because they think making light of things the same way how they're making light of their own issues
Mm-hmm.
is funny. They that is how they handle their issues. But that doesn't mean it works for everybody, and not everybody can understand that.
Right.
So it's the nuances that we really need to discuss, and I feel like a lot of people don't even notice what they're doing to themselves. Like people who say like, "Oh well, haha, I just might kill myself," or the wild stuff that people say all the time
Mm-hmm.
as jokes, and some people take it completely seriously
Yep.
and are concerned.
Yep.
And then some people laugh at it like it's a joke, and that person might be completely serious. We don't even know.
Right. It's one
It's
of those things where you almost don't you pretty much don't want to take the chance on that because of how serious that is.
I mean, I usually try to take it seriously all the time because yeah, because I'm like, I get that you might be laughing at this, but I don't find that funny because personally, I care about you making it to see tomorrow. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
whether or not God decides to take you home, that's between you and Him. That's
Mm-hmm.
your relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I'd rather you be here tomorrow.
Mm.
That ain't funny. Okay, because if you're not here tomorrow, what am I gonna do? Because at the end of the day, people don't notice this, right? But people are connected. The same way how you and Omni met, like what, how
Yeah.
long ago, and then connected right off the back
Mm-hmm.
because you guys had a good conversation and you know have a good impression of each other, and
Mm-hmm.
here we are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's
It's
simple.
I would even the what I would say, especially with my grandparents, I was really close to my grandfather. And
Hmm.
one thing I definitely believe he would want, that even though he's gone now, is he would want me to continue on even though he's not there. That's why he took the time to teach me so many lessons. That's why he took the time to train me on things. Even with my own father, with his own conditions going on, he would still want me to be the man he always wanted me to be. So in
Hmm.
that, if I could just give a word of encouragement, what we don't know when our time is to go, but
Hmm.
with any one of us who loves and cares for each other, we even when we are gone, we would want you to continue on in the lessons that you learned while we were here, because that
Right.
gives those lessons positive meaning.
Hmm.
Because then you
Yeah.
can take those lessons and you teach it to someone else, and then they teach it to someone else, and then they teach it to someone else.
Hmm.
Not just
That's
to carry on somebody's legacy, but it's simply carrying on what's right.
true. I dare say I've always told my friends that I believe the greatest form of immortality is to pass on what you've learned. That
Yeah.
is the greatest way that you can be remembered throughout time. The greatest honor anybody can be received from is you can be that person in somebody else's life who did something, taught them something, showed them the way, because they're not going to forget you.
That's
And then when
basically what
they
I'm
show
doing here.
somebody else that way, then your legacy goes on.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm really doing with this series, is
Hmm.
taking just whatever nuggets I may have, and if it helps even just one person, that's one person who was saved from any kind of type of catastrophe.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I am very forward about talking about my past and anything that I've gone through. It's because, like, at the end of the day, if you ever catch yourself following these footsteps, you know whether to turn left or right and get out of there. Like, you look, life isn't easy. I didn't have an older sibling or none of that. I was the oldest sibling. So I had to learn a lot of this stuff by falling and scraping my knee and getting up and going again. So in that type of environment, the best thing to do in this situation is to learn something and pass it on to somebody who might not know.
And
Real talk.
one thing about, easy or hard, I would say focus on determining whether or not it's worth it
True.
versus whether or not it's easy. Because if we really look at it, do we really celebrate things that are easy? Or do
Nope.
we celebrate things that were difficult and that we were able to overcome and grow?
Bruh, them high scores ain't gonna make themselves. What do you think I do, boy?
So what it really comes down to is not so much of whether it's easy, but whether it's worth it.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. That's why I stopped playing Genshin.
Oh my
Come
god,
on, man. You were so close.
My bad. I was just being a little demon, little demon time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the Genshin community. It was my bad. I didn't mean it like, I love you, even though she's supposed to be only for lesbians and then all of that. I love the LGBTQ.
Okay, buddy, bring it back in. Bring it back in.
Dig in the hole a little deeper. Hold on, wait a minute.
Like, bro, I'm about to throw you in there. This way, bro.
Wait a minute, bro. Wait a minute. Hold up. I'm not kind of yet. Hold up.
Oh my goodness, this guy. See what I got to deal with. See what I got to deal with, y'all.
Bro.
See what I got to deal
Oh
with.
my god.
Bro, that's why I'm here, man. I'm here to be funny. I'm here to love and be loved,
And that is a good thing too, is even again, we're having fun as we're learning and growing.
Mhm.
That's the cool part too. It can't be all serious, but it can't be all fun either. Again, that balance when it comes down to it.
All I can really say, the best thing that you can do for yourself as a person is find other like-minded people, because the moment you do, you realize that it's not just you who's fighting this battle. It's not just you who's out here trying to do the right thing, or not just you that's having these stumbles or are falling through the pitfalls.
Mm-hmm.
Real talk.
Exactly. So what I want to do here is, because realizing just how much we could take in this, I think what I'll do is we'll do one more of the anime, because
Mhm.
honestly that's really what our target audience is, because we're weebs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yes,
I'm
sir.
gonna do one more related to anime, and then I'll share the new video related to Chernobyl. And
Oh, we
we've
got one
also
from
got
John.
Yep, we got one from Johnny here. Thank you. Here's a thought: we men can do. Oh, okay. All we men can do is plant the seeds of trees that we may never enjoy the shade, but we can go forth and pass on with pride for doing said thing and allowing others to shine. Very
Mhm.
awesome analogy and observation. And you know what? When you really look at it, there are animals and even insects that literally just go forth and do their purpose, and they just pass on shortly after. I mean, from what I saw from
Yeah.
one species of spiders, when the male basically mates with the female, he becomes her dinner after that.
Yeah. In order to help keep the eggs nutrient rich and everything. Because a lot of times, if you look at the animal kingdom, it's set up in a way that self-sacrifice is normal.
I mean, look,
Mhm.
you've got, even with ants, I saw where the male ant, again, shortly after mating, he's done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the end of him. Same thing with bees. It basically mates with the queen bee, got his entire body ripped out. That's it.
Yep.
Like, and not even like, this isn't just like a fatherly act or a male act, because there's lots of mothers out there in like the
Right.
animal world
Yeah.
who sacrifice a lot of things, even in the case of orcas, like grandmamas. Like
Hmm.
the grandmas teach the babies and show the babies how to do things.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of this connection that people and animals have in general.
Hmm.
But the issue that I think that comes worse with people is that there's so much ego, so much self
Hmm.
in there, that a lot of times we get so caught up in ourselves
Hmm.
that we don't understand that we are connected to other people as well.
Yep.
Mm.
Solid. Solid indeed. So what we're going to do now is we're going to review the life lessons in Masamune Kun's Revenge. So I'm pretty sure you're in for a coaster on this one, especially when it has that very subject, revenge. But I tell you, in my time experience with revenge, it was one of the worst decisions I ever made.
I mean, it's very fun when you're going through it, but at the end of it, you usually have to deal with the consequences that come after, which usually are never fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Masamune Kun's Revenge. What the life lessons can we learn from it?
Many of us have experienced one time or another being prejudged and or humiliated. And when we lacked the discipline to let such cases roll off our shoulders, chances are we either became depressed or lashed out in anger. Some of us may have even plotted and executed vengeful plans to get even with the perpetrator. Have you ever gotten over these traumatic events? Well, in Masamune Kun's Revenge, one character seems to have kept a childhood chip on his shoulder. So what can we learn from them? Welcome to Life Lessons in Anime. Masamune Kun's Revenge is a Japanese manga series written by Hazuki Takeoka and illustrated by Teve. It was adapted into an anime and aired in 2017, produced by Silver Link and directed by Mirai Minato, with Michiko Yokote supervising the scripts. As of the release of this video, there appears to be no indication of a sequel. The story revolves around high school student Masamune Makabe, who is seeking emotional revenge on popular female student Aki Aragaki. In his earlier childhood, it is alleged that Masamune was emotionally abused by Aki for his overweight appearance. And after intense training and dieting and reaching high school age, Masamune plans to use his improved body structure and charisma to win Aki's heart, but then reject her in the same cruel mannerisms she did in the past toward him. Many of us are aware that vengeance is pointless, but let's break it down. Number 1. Prejudice is not only immature, but it can also be a symptom to underlying mental conditions within the host. Upon looking up the definitions of prejudice, there appears to be a common description between them, thereby stating, quote, the feeling of like or dislike for someone or something, especially when it's not reasonable or logical. In the instance of scenes within this anime, actions of the characters often fit the negative portion of the definition. Prejudice can be developed in a host either by inexperience, brainwashing, or by traumatic experiences. In the first episode of the series involving the high school tennis club, Masamune was looking at the female student athletes in a checking them out type of mannerism, and by his own internal monologue, admitted to viewing the female student athletes with impure thoughts. However, those student athletes called out to another male student who was holding up their smartphone and accused him of capturing media footage of them. If the male student was doing that, it would be a violation of the student athlete's privacy. This could very well be the primary factor why the female student athletes confronted the male student to begin with. But Masamune's particular gesture when looking at the female student athletes could also be questionable. And as the interaction between the female student athletes and Masamune continued, with just one compliment, the student athletes were somewhat entranced by him. Of course, this is all scripted, but there are cases where prejudice of this type does occur. The observing party could even be completely innocent and express a genuine compliment, and some recipients, if they do not like the complimenter, may resort to humiliating mannerisms toward them, but will gladly accept the same type of compliments from someone they do like. Judging someone for consideration of general interaction by appearance alone is a major misconception of facts regarding them. It is more important to consider the individual's character, to which one common red flag of character is one being nice and accommodating to people they do like, and condemning and humiliating towards those they don't like when such persons have done nothing wrong, criminally, nor morally. The other side of the coin, in which the behavior being a symptom, can be found with Aki Aragaki. Aki apparently suffered an event in the past involving guys, and appears to have yet to heal from it. Because of this, she has a perception that all guys are no good. However, she takes it a step further and significantly humiliates any male individual who proposes to date her, assigns them derogatory nicknames, and even rejects compliments from them. While it is unfortunate when we suffer traumatic events with others, using negative mannerisms toward others in an attempt to avoid the pain of a repeating scenario causes more problems than it actually solves. It is similar to trying to make others who had nothing to do with the original cause pay for the actual individual's transgressions, to which we ourselves would not hesitate to protest if we were handled in that same manner.
Oh boy.
Gentlemen,
I've seen, even though this is as you said, even though you say this is scripted, this may happen, and boy, oh howdy, do I
Me?
hear a lot of these.
Really?
There is
Bro.
a lot more than you let on in this.
of course.
Me? Listen to me. May is a month, okay? This shit happens everywhere. Everywhere.
Almost every other day.
Pretty privilege is real, bro. I'm not even gonna lie. Even I have pretty privilege, okay? When I got my beard all set up nice and stuff, you know, sometimes the older ladies look at me and they're like, "Hey, yo, so what's going on?" You know, and always being like, "Oh, how are you doing, young man?" And treating me real nice, you know, real. Look, okay, well, I don't even. The whole point is this, right? People like being complimented by people they find attractive. There ain't no two ways about it. We got it understood. But to understand the prejudice part of it is, yeah, sure, somebody that you don't like complimented you. The least you can say is just thank you and move on. Keep it pushing. You don't have to be an ass about it. Okay? And the worst part about this girl's character in this show is she is an ass about it. And I'm like, she is an ass to the point where it's like, look, you're being a little stalkerish, like going into this guy's like life and finding information about him from like previous lovers and all sorts of stuff like that. That's a little. Sure, it's scripted, but hey, in real life, information goes around pretty fast. Okay.
Oh, it does.
Like you might be thinking, you know, you might be going about your day, and then that's, you know, somebody start pointing at you and laughing at you, and then you check social media, and you find out, oh, your nudes online or something, and then it's like, oh boy, you trusted somebody who was immature, and they did this to you in some either state of revenge or something like that, or as some like, oh, you cheated on them or something. But at the end of the day, it just how hard is just leaving? I don't understand. Everybody needs to get even. But what happens when the guy, you know, turns around and leaks her nudes? Here we go.
There was actually
And
a
then it's
situation
fair
like
game,
that.
right?
There was actually a situation like that that I ended up mediating in that regard, because I knew the individual, and of course he knew the individual whom he was threatening to do that to. But unfortunately, now that was my play sister back in the day, and she unfortunately did that, and she wouldn't leave the dude alone even after he moved on. He ended up getting with someone that I also do. And so what ended up happening was they eventually got tired of her because she was bothering them, and I told her to leave them alone. Is he threatened to post the that particular picture. The problem was it was an underage picture, so I had to say to them, hey, look, you need to get rid of this. This is not the way to solve this problem, because you are looking at up to 5 years in prison. And you know what inmates do to folks like that. You may not be like that, but the fact you had any possession of that type of material, they're not taking any chances. I said, plus that constitutes a form of defamation and extortion. So you guys figure out a better way. But what's worse is they were responding to her too. So I'm like, hey guys, look, here's the problem. You're both you your girlfriend and her are waiting for each other to back down. Say, I'll stop insulting this person when they stop insulting me. No, you do the stopping first. You control your actions to stop the insults. Now I said the same thing to her. Now ultimately, from what I was told, he apologized to her about it, and of course, he got rid of the photo. That's just from third party testimony. Did he actually do that? I don't know. But apparently, as far as I've heard, there was no further conflicts with them. So,
Well,
so in that was in that, with the stuff that we're talking about, it's like, when do we intervene? When do we not intervene? Now, what I told her though, what I told little sis was this: hey, I'm not going to keep coming to your defense if you keep acting like an idiot.
fair.
So
Fair.
you do this stuff again, and it's the right chemistry, I'm gonna let the wolves tear you apart.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that is only honestly, sometimes that's what you need to let people know that it's real shit. Because some people they see you as a safety net. They
Mhm.
see you as a safe place to run to when they mess up.
Yep.
And
It's like
then
a
when they
crutch.
mess up, it's like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry that I did this thing that you told me don't do, and I'm like, ah, Jesus.
Then correct your behavior. Correct the mistake.
I'm gonna
Mm.
be honest with you, bro. Sometimes I just get really exhausted. Like it's more like I don't get disappointed.
Mhm.
It's just more like there's a wave of tiredness that just washes over my body in these situations. I feel like I've been dunked into the sea repeatedly,
Yeah.
and then it just comes to this point of like,
Yeah.
I can barely breathe,
I
and then
get
they
it.
dump me again, and then I'm like,
I get
Jesus,
it.
here we go.
Another story that I actually saw on YouTube, as a matter of fact, it became a YouTube short, is one dude was
Mm,
actually seeking a female's attention because she actually had a flat tire. When
mm.
he seeked to get her attention, the first thing out of her mouth was, "I have a boyfriend," and she kept pushing that, and even just started getting nasty in language. So finally, he was like, "Ma'am, I ain't trying to hit on you. I'm trying to tell you got a flat tire." She was like, "Oh, can you help me?" He was all like, "I have a girlfriend. Call your boyfriend." I'm like, "It's karma.
Honestly.
That's karma."
Uh-huh.
And at the same time, it's like, at that point, it's like, when you know a person has that kind of attitude, do you really help them? Because at that point, what will they do or say at that point?
No, I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of people are just well, it's sad to say this, but a lot of women tend to be usually scared slash prejudiced against men. But I mean,
Understand,
yeah, there's a
understandable
lot of guys who
with
are prejudiced
circumstances.
against women too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna angle it this way, but what I'm gonna say
yeah.
is like a lot of them are so scared,
Mm-hmm.
are so like anxious interacting with men that the first thing they try to do is they try to avoid any sort of advances being made,
Yeah. There's a
which I could
prejudice.
understand.
Yeah, there's a prejudice in relation to fear on one side, and then there's a prejudice related to predator on the other side.
Yes.
Right, right. So it's a situation where a lot of people think up the world a lot scarier in some cases,
Mm-hmm.
and in some cases the world is a lot scarier than people think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a catch-22 of some people are out there terrible, and then sometimes some people are just so scared that they preactively are stuck in fight or flight
Yeah,
when interacting with the opposite sex. And it's like
yeah.
we need to come to understanding, and we need to root out the ones that are bad,
Mm-hmm.
and and actually shine a light on the ones that are good, because
Agreed.
there's a lot of good people out there who are willing to help like somebody change a tire or something like that. Like, I mean, it's nothing off of me. If it was a case where she was like, oh yeah, like I have a boyfriend, I'm like, look, your tire's burst. Do you even know how to change a tire? Like I'm not. I don't care what she says. It's her business at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if I was gonna help. If I wanted to help and I started on wanting to help, I was gonna finish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really care. I don't want nothing. Keep your money, keep all that. Just don't talk to me ever again. Because the moment that you show me that you're just like, you know, like this, it makes interacting with you feel like I'm rubbing my own ass with sandpaper. Okay,
There's
why
just
would
that
I
notion.
put myself back into it?
Yeah, there's just that
Past this
notion
point.
of you're showing that you're not able to manage that you're not really able to manage the trauma or manage your emotions within and be able to really discern a situation.
Right.
And that's
And
and that's a trust issue.
to be fair, there is to be fair to them and other people who might be going through these types of situations. It can be due to trauma,
Hmm.
which in case somebody did something terrible to you,
Right.
it wasn't your fault because a lot of traumatic experiences, the victim usually self-actualizes it and tries to take responsibility for it. When a
Hmm.
lot of times it isn't their fault.
Yeah. Now, but
The
understand this too. We're talking about in
Mhm,
the case to where when there's a trauma to where it leads to all kinds of different triggers. There are certain
mhm.
exceptions, but there's also the rule. But
Yeah.
too many times in today's society, there are those that are trying to make the exceptions the rule.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there are people who do put themselves in a lot of dumb situations and then talk about, oh, my ex was toxic. You knew he was toxic from day one. Don't even do that with me,
I mean,
okay,
there's a lot
Jessica?
of dudes too, especially
Because
where they treat the Jezebels like a straight queen, and it's like, dude, you're dealing with a princess.
no, I understand. There's a lot of people out there who they enter with their own preconceived notions and they do their own thing, right?
Mhm.
But when they get to the end of it, they realize that it wasn't really what they seemed or what it was what they thought it was. And then they lose hope or feel like, yeah, that I can't let this happen to me again. So they lock down or they climb up or they erect a wall of thorns, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I get it, which is fair. It's a defense mechanism.
Hmm.
But I really in this world that we live in, we're so connected and so disconnected at the same time.
Oh yeah.
They
Most.
like people would have something bad happen to them and then be like, everybody's like this, everybody's like this, and then still go outside, walk next to people, that they're scared of and all this stuff, and do things and put themselves in harm's way, and then be like, oh, I just can't do this with this type of person or that type of person, and I'm like, you are creating a double-sided blade here. Where on one end you are making things worse than they actually are in your head because of one experience, but then you don't accept the reality that you have experienced positives from the same thing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
How about you, Omni?
yeah,
Oh
your turn
boy,
on me.
I got a lot to say. Hold up.
Okay,
I was ready for this one.
let me clean my ears real quick.
Unfortunately, I was ready for this one. All right. So for one, first and foremost, the dude got rejected because he was heavy set, and then he lost weight, so he can rizz her up to get, and then reject her as the whole plot goes. First off, if he was looking that different from the time that he met her to the time that he wants to get his revenge, he should have just been fine with that. Like that should have just been the revenge part done. Like I would, if I went from fat to fucking ripped, and I'm just like, it's like, you know what? I don't even have to do anything. I can and literally just complimented some girls, and there was 3 of them that were just happy just to say I said they look pretty. Bruh, fuck the revenge. I'm done.
in a
I like this
way,
guy.
in a way,
I
that's
like this
saying
guy.
something about really how to go about it, which is just be successful. Really, that's the
Yes.
best revenge you can actually obtain. It's just be
Mhm.
successful. Now,
Yeah, prove them wrong.
in that sense, man, do that success for yourself.
Hmm.
So when they may see you, what they think is what they're gonna think.
Yeah.
Chances are,
Yeah.
especially if there's something you have to offer them because they knew you and they basically mistreated you, chances are they're gonna have a sense of remorse of that, whether they admit it or not.
Yeah, they're gonna beg for it. They're gonna be on their knees. They're gonna be like, I never meant to treat you that way. Like you were always a good person. I was just terrible. And I'm over here like, yeah, mhm,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
uh-huh.
Go on.
Can I get that little Heinrich? Can you like record that for me? I'm just about to bust. I ain't gonna lie.
But
Continue.
here's the thing. Here's a story. I was also a mediator for a particular instance, and this was a very interesting instance
Mhm.
because both of them are my friends, and they
Mhm.
still remain my friends even to this day.
Mhm.
But the girl liked the guy. The guy was very hesitant,
Mhm.
but the girl, she really wanted to be with him.
Mm.
So they like ultimately they gotten down to the point of like, but here's the thing, they both have a bit of a mental disorder. They're
Mhm.
not bad people, they're wonderful people
Mhm.
still, but they both clearly have a mental disorder, and they both equally know that they both have this same mental disorder.
Mhm.
And it's like, but nonetheless, like she was okay with it. She was really ready to be a part of this, and he was, even though reluctant, he said, "Hey, if it makes her happy, then it makes her happy." And like they've been together for a nice while.
Mhm.
Now, here's a lot of things went down, but needless to say, um, over time, there was some miscommunication. There was like the guy was talking to like other friends about like, hey, like I'm not sure what's going on, and the girl was like having like was like kind of doing her own thing, and every so often has kind of isolated herself in a sense. Um, and then when it came to my attention of what was kind of going on, there was a big fallout between the two. I was there to mediate the entirety and like try to put an end to everything. It's
Mhm.
like, look, first off, y'all know what y'all were getting into. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The
Mhm.
thing is, the guy was going to friends to talk about problems that apparently was not being communicated to her, and there was she was talking to her ex while they were in a relationship.
Mhm.
But was it anything far romantic? No, it wasn't. But still, both sides were talking to talking to other people.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So even though and they both had this trust issue. Well, one of them had a trust issue with this
Mhm.
because it was the fact that the guy was talking to other people, even though she was also talking to her ex.
Mhm.
And this went pretty south because of the fact that after resoluting the entire conversation between these two people, she pretty much had a bit more of an outcry in a sense. She started addressing how he was a cheater, how he was immature, how he did this and that. The guy he thought that was going to be the end of it. He's like, "All right, we had this talk, we sat down, we were at equal tables, we're done." Like
Right.
that should be the end of it. And yet, in the grand scheme of things, even though all the people that knew him began to turn on him immediately.
Oh, jeez.
Even though both of them shared the exact same thing, she showed no remorse to the fact of both sharing their traumas, both um, one having previous relationship that had over time they just couldn't handle it. All ended on good terms, but for some reason he was the exception to that rule for whatever reason may be, and the guy has traumatic like issues because his understanding of relationships are very limited, and but he just wanted people to be happy. That was his whole thing. That was his whole shtick. Um, but he pretty much ultimately got caught up in this entire uh this whole conflict of people not trusting him, people literally uh like calling him out while she was like pretty much just telling and berating this entire situation out.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, it's just they both have traumatic experiences, both of them,
Mm-hmm.
equally bad on both sides.
Yeah.
They both have the same mental disorder. So why just because and they both were talking to people. So it's not like, oh, it was specifically one thing. One
Mhm.
side was speaking to another. They and one was speaking to friends and the other one was speaking to her ex. Again, I allegedly don't know if it was romantic or not, but I mean, still, if you're in a relationship, it to some people, who, especially some people that don't know relationships, that that comes off as really strange.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm.
nonetheless, because of despite this, everyone attacked him just because he was seemingly like people immediately took after what was said,
Mm-hmm.
what and believed her
Mm-hmm.
over him only just because of the fact that I guess she was the first to speak up about anything and everything, despite we said we were going to make peace. But no, it led to a long feud between it. And it just like I had to rope back to the point of to go to her. And it's like, you are aware. I told you specifically that there was a lot of factors to take into play. That a relationship would not work very well in y'all's case. And you are the one that chose to be in this position. You were the one who said, I don't care. I want to be with him. And I warned you multiple times that so you have no right to justify your means of saying he was wrong in the wrong when both of you did the exact same thing with the exact same scenario and have so many people, his own friends, turn against him while you walk scot free. That she made the scenario and made it far worse than it needed to be, having so many people turn against him. And it was unnecessary, completely unnecessary. It should have ended where it lied. But in the end, I had to work through all of it. And that was it was painstaking. It
Mm-hmm.
drove a lot of people away. It made people have so many different views, even getting views that weren't even like accurate. People didn't understand any side, and it only just and basically in the grand scheme, it just reflected that he was more the villain in this whole thing than she was, even though they were both in the same ballpark and playing field.
Yeah, there are standards among men to where there's an accountability of both our actions and the other's actions. To where
Yeah.
if we for
Hmm.
somehow now I'm not saying this is right,
Mhm.
but there is a expectation out there among men that you're responsible for everything that happens in your interactions with people, especially when it becomes to the relationship between you and a woman. You're responsible for everything that happens. They've even gone so far as to say is if she cheats, it's your fault. If she's angry at you, it's your fault. Even if she's never said to you what a problem was, somehow that's your fault.
Everything's your fault.
And the problem is that this is actually, I'll just say it straight up, this is killing men.
Mhm.
To inflict unjustifiable accountability against these individuals, this is killing them to the point to where they don't actually want to be around. Because why should they be around, or why should they be in any environment that's basically going to shame them, whether it's their actually their responsibility or not?
Mm.
Would you want to be in an environment like that?
No one.
No.
So the notion is accountability has to be properly addressed on who it actually is that it belongs to,
But
and only
bro,
in each party thereof. And this is again what was being discussed before about being that middle person. You're not taking anyone's side. You're on the side of what's right, and therefore addressing every single misconduct for what it is. Because unless you address each misconduct with each person for what it is, that individual now is going to lose an opportunity to grow, or they're just going to be enabled. So therefore, they keep doing it until they get to an even bigger issue that is beyond anyone's control, which could ultimately land them in some serious heat.
Mm.
Yeah.
So basically, you can have instant consequence. You can deal with the consequences right now, or you can deal with them later. But the price is going to go up if you do it later.
Yeah.
Well, that is true. Although I mean, allow me to interject here slightly. There's also the going cardinal rule of who said it first is usually the person who's right. So a lot of people have adopted that for some reason. I don't know why. It's like when it's like when somebody accuses you of something,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have any evidence to prove your innocence, then to be completely honest, you're basically kind of just already shot in the back by everybody else that you know a lot of the times, unless people know your character well enough and stand by you.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, the thing is, a lot of people, they don't think logically first; they
No,
think
they don't.
emotionally first.
It's
So
true.
when they hear, "Oh, I'm emotionally hurt because this person did this thing to me and they gaslit me," and once they hear all of the nice little keywords, all the nice little trigger words, they then take it upon themselves to feel emotionally wronged on somebody else's behalf.
Yep.
So as a mediator, usually when you come in, you have to set biases aside,
Yep.
look at all of the factual information, answer like chat logs and stuff like that, like as per usual.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to assess what is the truth.
Yeah.
Because a
Objective
lot of the times,
investigation versus subjective investigation.
but you see,
Yeah.
this is a thing. We know this because we've all mediated to some degree. We've
Mhm.
all had to mediate different types of situations, and we are at that level of understanding. But I don't understand why people in this day and age don't adopt that way of thinking about situations in general. Because at the end of the day, this left right mentality that they're going off of are I'm on my side, or are you on my side? This thing, that is what's killing everybody. That's killing all of these situations. It's killing relationships. It's killing just friendships. It's killing the idea of even wanting to be seen around the opposite sex.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm
Yes.
seeing a few common reasons floating around. One of them is inexperience.
Oh yeah.
Another
And
one
experience is a big part.
Another one is convenience,
Yeah.
which can oftentimes tie into that inexperience. This is all they know, and then this is all they want to stick with.
Yeah. Because they don't want to evolve past that part. Because then that involves being accountable. And this can be fun on both sides.
And
There's
it can,
narcissism on both sides, male and female. And sure, yeah, there's a small percentage of narcissists, but that doesn't mean that people can't portray
yeah,
narcissistic traits
yeah. Then there's a
because
third one.
there's a lot of them.
There's a third one, which is brainwashing. Like accountability is considered to be such an Achilles heel these days.
Mm,
But like I said earlier, our accountability is actually a coach. It's a life coach to help keep us on track.
real talk.
Speaking
I
of on track.
completely agree on that. Yeah,
No, this is
why not?
absolutely fantastic, though. But for time's sake, let's go ahead. Let's move on and see
Yeah.
what the next lesson is.
Fair.
All right, let me get this taken care of here. All right,
Handled in that same manner.
and moving on.
Number 2. Evil actions such as humiliating mannerisms, bullying, narcissism, etc. have consequences. Every action warrants a reaction, and they are not limited to justice. They can also take the form of unjust actions. Actions like these not only can get you disciplined, they can also get you seriously injured or even killed. One male student proposed to Aki for consideration of a relationship. However, Aki rejected the request and again resorted to public humiliation. The peer pressure from the incident and lack of emotional resilience by the male student led to extreme anger, which unfortunately boiled over, and the male student proceeded to assault Aki with a deadly weapon. This is something that can happen when you push issues like these too far. Rejecting someone is one thing, but humiliating them within that rejection is beyond reason. While it was wrong of the male student to attack Aki, Aki is not innocent. Aki's actions consisted of verbal and emotional abuse. And what's worse, none of the bystanders throughout the series ever called her out on it, especially the female students who embraced the behavior. This is also a case of what is known as hypocrisy. Unjust actions have been an issue since the beginning of man, and in those incidents, one side or another had the dominance and were turning a blind eye to such actions, and even swept them under the rug. But with the field becoming more leveled out, there are growing cases where some who were once oppressed are now engaging under the same umbrella of evil mannerisms and are turning a blind eye themselves, or even attempting to justify such actions. Therefore, the question is warranted: is it really about justice and equality, or is it actually about gaining dominance and control? And one of the main reasons why those involved on either side turn a blind eye is often because they are benefiting from it. The reality is there are discrepancies on both sides. No means no, and nobody should be putting their hands on anyone unwelcomingly and/or inappropriately. The bottom line, when we all maintain the discipline of treating others with mutual respect, only then will we be on the right track to peace. It is not one-sided.
All right, folks, what do you got?
Well, I said my piece. That story.
I think we
Pretty
covered
much.
quite a bit of it, but what about Ink?
Oh, I mean, to be fair, I mean, this is basically nothing new. I just talked about narcissism, bro.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's basically just people engaging in actions that they themselves would not want to be done to them, and then justifying it under some false narrative of like, well, he or she should feel the same way that I do, or he or she should go through exactly what I did. When most of the time, honestly, you shouldn't have been put through that to begin with. What happened to you is wrong, and now you're engaging in the same behavior, so you're just as bad as the perpetrator.
Yeah.
Mm.
One of the main things I
So,
wanted to address on this one was the
mm,
fact that consequences are not actually limited to justice. They
well,
can
no, they
actually
never are.
they can
Oh, yeah.
actually be just as bad or even worse than what the original assailant did.
Bro, I mean, look at how many times you see like fights online and stuff, and it's usually like some previous incursion or some previous happening, and then it boiled over to like some real shit and people like getting knocked out and beat to death.
Yeah.
Like that shit happens all the time. It's like
Yeah.
I don't even understand why bullying still exists to some degree, because it's like all it takes is one bad day
Mhm.
and you're dead.
Wow.
You just have to get pushed down a stair.
Mhm.
You just need to fall the right way and you're dead. Like the human body is not built to save you.
Ultimately, bullying
It's
still
very fragile.
happens. Bullying
Yeah.
still happens, one, because it's not being nipped in the bud.
True. I completely agree with that statement. In fact, I think I have the best story for this. You know, my little tale from rags to riches.
Mhm.
You know, when I was young, I was a nice little nerdy kid with books and everything. You know, luckily I didn't have glasses. I was close enough.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, it's one of those scenarios, especially where some parents, 'cause I'm not going to say all of them, but there are some parents that really are not aware of what their kids are doing and are not very active in their children's life.
mm,
They're
Yeah.
providing the bare necessities of food and shelter, but relying on all other distractions so they don't have to concern themselves with their children.
I
But then there's
completely
also a
agree with that.
reliance on on certain systems to teach their children. But then then when something blows up because it's something that they actually didn't want their kids being taught, they're like right there. They're usually intervening like right in the middle of it. So it's like, hey, folks, you got to keep track on what's on kids. What's even more is in a lot of cases, there's not a solid relationship being developed with some kids and their parents to where the only thing that the kids really know about their parents is maybe their name, their date of birth, and the fact that they're their parents. They don't know any. They barely know any of their life stories. So there's not much that can really resonate between the two because of that. So there's that disconnect. They don't really know each other. And then when you
I,
have the prime
hmm
example, the first set of humans that really are to teach you what human society is supposed to be about are now showing you examples on basically doing everything wrong, which includes the
hmm
bullying or the intimidation tactics used to get out of accountability.
Mhm.
mm.
Yeah.
I mean, to be real, a lot of parents do pull a lot of these stunts specifically, and to be fair, I think part of the biggest issues that I have with society is that society doesn't allow for enough time between children and parents for the parents to see and understand what their children are going through, and then also for the children to see and understand what the parents are going through, because there isn't really a lot of overlap between the child of a life and the child of parent. The
Mm-hmm.
parent drops off the child, and that's if they do have that interaction with the child anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They, let's say they put them off at 8 in the morning. They go, the kids go to school, they go to work, whatever happens at work, and then whatever happens at school, there's a whole big hallelujah or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And then basically when they get the call from the school, it's like, oh yeah, your son was in this fight or something, or blah blah blah. Da, da, da. You have to come down here and see what's going on. And the worst thing that I hate about schools is that schools always provide this neutral territory
Yep.
for bullying, because they're always like, oh well, the kids had a little fight. No, Tim was beating the shit out of Bob because Bob was beating the shit out of Tim for the last 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
yeah, literally. What's worse is when it and they suspend both individuals for fighting, but it's like, wait a minute, where's the context? What you going
Yeah,
back to what you said, Omni, is we're
Mm.
not taking the time to get the context of things. And
bro.
that's hurting us.
Yeah, that's literally what happened to me. Like I've had that happen to me twice.
Oh yeah.
But you see, I like, was a young little nerdy kid, whatever, blah blah blah, got kicked in the mouth by a flying back kick apparently, and
Mm-hmm.
then went to learn how to fight. Well, tried, I guess, learn to do jujitsu for a little bit, and it gave me enough confidence to say, you know what, fuck it. Ain't nobody doing me dirty like this no more. I
Mm-hmm.
put my back against the wall and it was swinging from them,
Yeah.
you know? And guess what happened?
Yeah.
I beat their ass and we became friends later on.
For some people, that's the only way to get the message across. Is now as much as some folks hate it, but again, it's consequences. It may not be favorable, it may not be desired, but that doesn't nullify the fact that it's a consequence.
It
So
is a
until there
consequence.
is a
Mhm.
consequence that the host who is administering the foul behavior,
Mm,
until that consequence exceeds their threshold of tolerance, until it breaks their will, they're
mm.
going to keep doing it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with criminals. It's the same thing with people who work in like in companies and stuff who are doing shit that they know they shouldn't be doing,
Hmm.
until it exceeds their tolerance, as you usually say, or the punishment exceeds their understanding of what they're willing to take.
Hmm.
Then yeah, when there's no way back, they oftentimes turn around and do what they need to flip and do.
Yeah. I mean, take Aki, for example. That experience to work now, she got off pretty easy because all that was
Well,
just
no,
going to be a
honestly,
haircut.
me personally, I would have let the hair get cut first because she needed the consequence. Because I bet you, because she's been saved during this consequence, she's like 10% of the way to actually changing,
Hmm.
and might just that 10% might deplete in the future. because she didn't have to suffer true and actual traumatic experience to understand what she's putting other people through.
Yeah, and if I can throw in one more nugget and let's
Mm.
continue. There are some cases to where a consequence can be as small as a near miss.
Yeah,
But
like
then
near
there are
death
other
experiences.
cases to where it needs to be a full-blown catastrophe.
Oh, it definitely needs to be. I remember that one. I remember that one kid who used to be bullying me the most.
Uh-huh.
I got him square in the mouth, chipped his tooth. He never messed with me ever again.
For some people, that's what needs to happen. Man,
Yeah.
this is some good stuff, guys. Moving
Mm.
on.
Number
Yeah,
3.
forgive my violent
The
tendencies.
mindset of revenge is a path to self-destruction. You run the risk of becoming just like your aggressor. Whenever we have been wronged, the common knee-jerk reaction is to reciprocate the same action the perpetrator enacted towards us. If you are not yet developed in the discipline of introspection, and if you are still in a state of insecurity, the common thought process is to recover whatever dignity you can, even if it is questionable in morality, which can lead to the next risk. You will attempt to justify your desire for revenge with anything you believe will stick. You could be doing the same thing as your aggressor, but because of the pain you suffered, you end up claiming the necessity for you to be given a pass for exercising such actions. However, let that scenario be the other way around and you be the non-prevailing party. You will most likely claim how flawed that kind of logic is. Vengeance is not concerned about what is logical or reasonable. It's only concerned with obtaining what it wants in that period of time of its manifest, which leads to the next risk. Revenge is a waste of your resources. You will find yourself exhausting everything you have: your time, your energy, your finances, your equipment, even those you hold close. If you are severely entranced into revenge and anyone attempts to introduce more reasonable alternatives, you may even find yourself perceiving them as an enemy. All of that just to get back at someone on mainly a theory, which ends up warranting the next risk. There is no guarantee the revenge plan you formulate will work. The common goal for a plan of revenge is to induce suffering on the target. But there is no guarantee the target will actually remain in the agony if successful in fulfilling the task. And when the target ends up showing resilience and recovers from your acts of revenge, or in some cases is no longer having to deal with the challenges of life, you may find yourself experiencing the next risk. There is no guarantee you will feel better after completing the task of revenge. One case in this is when the target actually corrects their own misconduct before you could execute your plan. Masamune got a glimpse of this when he saw Aki interacting nicely with another male student who was on the, quote, chubby side, to which Masamune became enraged. Even though self-correction is one of the best courses of action to assist with healing from misconduct, in the mind of one fixed on revenge, this will not be good enough. You may even find yourself trying to find every reason possible to invalidate the efforts of the correction. And in the case in which you don't feel better afterwards, whether your plan worked or not, as the adrenaline and first knee-jerk reactions wear off, you may find yourself wrestling with the next risk. You will have multiple battles with your conscience. Unless you are on the level of a psychopath, this is likely to happen. There are cases you will even question whether justice truly exists. But what justice are you referring to? Or could it be you actually redefine justice to suit your own vendetta? And if your own personal definition is not fulfilled, you may conclude that justice does not exist, become even angrier, and attempt to suppress your conscience, to which you will end up wanting to satisfy your desire to see your perpetrator suffer even more, which leads to one more risk noted in this video. you risk neglecting your own health. With all the rest of the factors involved, you may end up at a point that all you want is for that perpetrator to feel your wrath. You may enter into poor eating habits, consuming violent material to feed your anger, surrounding yourself in violent atmospheres, substance abuse, physical abuse, the list goes on. All of this in the hopes that your target will get a glimpse of what they did to you, which there is no guarantee they will come to that understanding, even after all of that. What you will have been doing is destroying yourself, expecting them to notice. But the reality is, which is the final lesson in this video,
We'll hold right there,
Okay.
and we'll get some commentations from our gentlemen. Gentlemen, what say ye?
Hmm.
Would you like to take the lead on this one?
I got you, bro. This is exactly what happened to me.
I think it
In my
happened
quest
just
for
like Incubus.
revenge, I lost more than I thought I did. And then I didn't even get to take out the revenge on the person. Ugh. In fact, honestly, I think my memory is still fucked up from all that shit. Like, it's like my memory is hazy regularly, even like today. And you know, like how people have like usually talk about having like an internal monologue and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My head is completely empty, bro. It's sad. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like there's so much damage that my brain just said, nah, we're putting that in the back, you know. We're gonna pack that down in a zip file, you know, put it under something, you know,
Mhm.
maybe put it in a few more files, maybe have a homework file over it, you know.
Yeah.
hmm
That's just how it is, because I mean, at the end of the day, right? Your gut. I'm gonna be honest. Hate tends to come from a place of love, or a place of admiration, because you can admire a person in the beginning, and then that positive feeling only amplifies the negative feeling you have when they betray you or do something to you.
Yeah.
And it has the same like internal hook that you can have when you're in a relationship and you're experiencing the honeymoon phase. It's basically a drug. So you're hopped up on all of these fantasies of seeing them hurt, seeing them done in and all of that. And then by the end of it, you're basically rotting yourself from the inside.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And lots of the times, right? This can happen between you and a family member.
Yeah.
It can happen between you and like a friend, a best friend, a lover. It can happen between you and anybody, even your coworkers or your boss. But you know what? The best thing to do is, in most of these cases, step out of that environment.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you change that environment, once you get out of there and that person is no longer there, that person is no longer triggering a response in you, you realize that a lot of the times
Mm-hmm.
it's not just that person that's doing this to you. It's you not being able to let go of what was done to you that leads you into holding so much resentment for this person to the point that you might even want to kill them.
Man.
So you were holding yourself prisoner to get this revenge.
Yep.
So that's why in like the earlier ones, I was like, you need to surround yourself with people like you. Because sometimes these people have already been through these paths, went down these roads, have suffered and have paid their price. And you were at the beginning or halfway down that journey, and now noticing that you're not all okay anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Or you might be just about to get into it. You need to have somebody else there who knows what's going on, because sometimes just that interaction of a like-minded soul can save you.
Right.
Mm.
So the whole choosing sides and deciding that whether somebody's your enemy or not based on the flimsiest of information, because all you answer was left or right, yes or no. You didn't answer. Oh, so what are your thoughts on this? Because it can be way deeper. It could have a personal reason. It could be a reason based on experience, even if it's a traumatic experience. But everybody has a reason for why they do things. Nobody just does things because there is a thing, there is a reason. There is a reason for every action, and every action has a consequence. So the reason for your revenge is you've been wronged. Nobody's saying you haven't. Nobody's saying that it's a situation where, oh, you shouldn't feel that way, because anybody telling you that is stupid. Feelings don't have any sort of formula. They come on because they happen,
Mm-hmm.
because you experience it. The stimuli has triggered that response in you.
Right.
What you need to do is understand why. And then when you understand why, and you remove yourself from that situation, whether it's moving that person to your life or releasing that person from the responsibility of having to pay you back,
Mm-hmm.
then you will be free.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah. One of the things, there was always that when when you're doing planning or even just in language arts, we always heard about that who, what, where, when, why, how. I found
Right.
that the why influences all of those others.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's why. Why is the most important question. In fact, I probably have books full of just that one word. Damn.
Man.
Dark
But
days, brothers.
as
Yeah.
you live, as you continue to live, and these one things that you've learned, all this as you go forth in life, you end up developing an understanding, a deeper understanding, and more meaning to them. What you may have thought
Mhm.
back then was not much meaning, but then again, why'd you think that? Well, most likely because we were inexperienced at that time. But as we gain
Mhm.
more experience, we find out, wow, there's actually a lot more significance to this than I thought.
Yeah.
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 Any closing
But
words, Omni?
that's
Oh yeah.
mm,
Another different story. This while I was still active and deployed.
Mm-hmm.
We worked. There was this one cat that rubbed me the wrong way. But to give you context of the environment,
mm,
uh, it was 6 days on, 1 day off, um, for 6 months for 12 hours. So with 1 day off, working for 6 days straight with 12 hours back to back every day, the same mundane work. Like it's fine for the first probably month or two, depending on how you handle it. But for the whole 6 months, it does great on you over time, especially for your first time. But there was this cat that really rubbed me the wrong way,
Mm-hmm.
to the point that in my entire life I saw red. And he was we I admit I made some mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But also, to be fair, he made much bigger mistakes. Um and everyone knew it. Everyone knew it. So it's not like this is a secret or anything. But needless to say, he got on me and as if I made big mistakes, if not bigger mistakes than he did. And not gonna lie, that was probably the one time I felt not only revenge but bloodlust.
mm,
Um, so, but and I went through this process. I went through the entire thought process of true revenge. What could I do to get back at this man? What can I do to hurt this man? This is like I'm overly stressed out. I'm working 12 plus hours sometimes. I'm doing this day in, day out, and he has the audacity to call me out in such a way. And it's not it's not exactly what I did and how he went about saying, "Hey, yeah, this is what you did wrong." It was how he presented it to me and how he tried to add superiority, even though we were the same rank. That's where my anger really came from. But as time went on, it took me honestly 2 weeks, 2 weeks of really analyzing why was I getting angry? Why? Well, first off, how many things I could have probably done to the guy, but it went from that down to why. Why am I really angry at him?
Mm-hmm.
And I I came to the conclusion very simply. It was just because of the way he said it, and like and where we are right now. But after saying it to that, after so much anger, so much frustration, and everything else, I found a sense of calm, but it felt very empty
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't do anything against him. I don't want to hurt anyone. That's the one thing I really don't want to do with anyone, even in the line of the force, unless it is directly needed.
Mm-hmm.
But but that was probably the truest form of a revenge for me
Mm-hmm.
because I see it not only it's a poison.
Mm-hmm.
It's a poison that will constantly seep not only into your thought process but also into your own body. And the way I felt, it felt like first I was just angry and then I had these thoughts and then it came down to like my body just felt more shaking. It was shaking from possibly adrenaline or anticipation or just the thoughts alone, and to the point that over time I started feeling like slightly more ill, but still driven by the same ideas over and over and over again on repeat
Mm-hmm.
to
Hmm.
but after I started calming myself down day by day and thinking of just to calm myself down, it's like, do I really want to go through this, knowing everything that I'm about to do will ruin my entire career
Right.
of being in the force? That's where I am. It's like, is this really worth it?
Yep.
Is all my actions really going to be amounting to really where I want it to be? And I can say
Hmm.
with good certainty that revenge is not just a poison, but over time you will begin to see yourself as a puppet of your own strings.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Because as I got into the conclusion of clarity and just keeping myself peace of mind, it literally felt like I was cutting my own strings. And what I was left with was being able to stand, but with none of the good feeling. It felt empty,
Mm.
which to some may say that's a bad thing, but honestly, it's I've heard another story of a person that went out of
Mm.
their way to actually to kill someone because of what they did. They were on a complete revenge track and they succeeded. They
Mm-hmm.
succeeded in killing the person that did them wrong. Uh, by the way, it was let's say it was justified. They basically the man um, killed their significant other. He went on a complete revenge path just for him. He succeeded in killing him, but in the end, he turned himself in and everything. And when questioned, he basically said that like how you feel when they asked him, it's like how you feel about everything you just did. He says, "I feel nothing, absolutely nothing." And he turned himself in. He just had a faint smile on his face, and when asked about it over and over again, he felt nothing. And the situation, the ends to make means, none of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt pretty much like that, but it's
Mm.
almost like cutting nerves, and then you just build it back up again. But
Mm.
that in and of itself, revenge is not going to leave you satisfied.
No.
Revenge is not going to satiate the craving, maybe for the moment, but it won't in the on the long scheme. It's just
Exactly.
Mm.
it'll just leave you numb to everything you've done.
Well, I mean, to be completely honest with you,
Mhm.
failing to complete it also feels the same way.
Yeah,
It
true.
there's an emptiness to it, right? And it's worse for two reasons. One, you've built up all this time and energy. You felt compelled. You felt so strong an emotion that you weren't even able, like in your case, like bro, I think I had a panic attack one time. I was so angry. I basically had a panic attack because I was that angry,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And it was so bad. It even happened in public. I was like just so like I was so angry that
Yeah.
when this person basically ceased being and the revenge was no longer even possible, everything just e- everything was done. I didn't get to do anything. It happened naturally. There was no big fu, there was no nothing. And then there was just all of these emotions that just honestly were of no use to me anymore. And that's why I think honestly I'm so empty these days. Is that it while it has granted me a lot more control, I have the time to observe my emotions before they get to a certain level and I can feel it more deeply.
Hmm.
It's it's honestly eye-opening
Hmm.
Yeah. That
how out of control your emotions can get to the point that you basically shut down.
Yeah.
exactly. And
And you do lose something from that because to be honest, I had to relearn a lot of things, you know.
yeah,
I
I
had
know
to
exactly.
relearn that people were okay, that not everybody was an enemy. I had to relearn that some people are just bad because they feel like it. And you have to reattach yourself to the network of life.
True.
And that
But
takes a lot of effort and time.
and and to that, that's where I will actually kind of disagree on just the fact that you feel, yes, it is double-sided on both ends. Like
Mm,
whether you go through with the revenge, or you are
mm,
unsuccessful, or whatever the case may be, and it gets interrupted.
mm,
Yes, you will experience that feeling of emptiness. But honestly, it's a it becomes a reset on every part of your senses, but it doesn't mean it's a hard reset. It becomes
on-
more of a it
well,
becomes a regrowth of learning experience for that makes you even stronger than you ever were. But it does
mm,
take a healing time. It's
yeah.
not instantaneous.
No, I got you in that. But you see, this is the thing. This has been a hatred that's been building for years. This wasn't a month thing.
Yeah, fair
Hmm.
enough to that.
I feel like it's a little bit more intense. But understandably, you are correct. It's not like it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that because you don't get to carry it out, you become so attached to the emotion, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's just that
And
Mhm.
emotional
because
attachment.
the attachment to that emotion
Yep.
as it grows and it protrudes out of you in every facet of your body, and you feel it so strongly
Yep.
that when that connection is cut, as
Yeah.
you to use your analogy, every
Mm.
string was cut at once.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too is that it leaves a void,
Yep,
and
a
that
void
void
Yeah.
indeed.
and that void
Oh,
needs to be
yes.
filled. That's really what it is. Is this is all you've known? This is all you've known. This is what you become accustomed to. It's a habit. So now
Hmm.
you're breaking that habit. But now the thing that needs to happen is a new habit needs to replace that previous habit.
Yeah.
Actually, that is so true, bro. Now that I think about it, I
Very,
think I did
very
it
true.
subconsciously. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good reset.
Hmm.
For
But
me, it was art, honestly.
Hmm.
That was what replaced everything. That became my world for a good couple of years.
Yeah. For me, it was
And
just doing this. Just sharing with others. Like if I see them on the path, I just be
mm,
like, there's an alternative. This is pretty
mm,
much my one of my ways of healing is just
I
helping
could
others to
understand that.
avoid hiccups. So I
You know
think,
what?
so
I do think that is what we all ultimately end at, you know.
yeah,
mm,
We all end at sharing that experience to help somebody avoid something that we failed to see
hmm,
up ahead, you know?
yep. And usually it's oftentimes it ends up being just if I don't know if it's paraphrasing or just translated to because we're really repeating the same thing that's been said, but perhaps the way we say it may resonate with someone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, to be real, I know how life is. You know, I've been around. I've been through my own fair share of things. And if
Absolutely.
it's one thing I know, at the end of the day, your feelings do matter, but what you do with them also matters more.
Exactly. All right, we'll move on here. I think we'll have maybe about an hour and a half left max of streaming to go.
Oh,
Mm.
dang.
Yeah.
But if it comes down to it, we can always just do a part 2 if it's getting
I
late
mean,
for anyone.
Oh, I'll
I
be down with
mean,
that.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go all now, bro. What you mean?
gosh.
Hey, yo,
Yeah.
I always go for round 2. What are you talking about? I'm playing. Or am I?
Because if it comes down to it, I said I do the new release, but if we don't get to it, we'll just push it back.
Oh, we could always just do it next time. Honestly, I'm like free tomorrow or anything. We could just reschedule another time.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately busy tomorrow,
Aw,
but we'll see.
but I'll
But
miss you.
I know, but I'll think about it because I think at the same time there's no need to stretch it. So I think
True.
you know what, let's go ahead and finish this one up, and then I'll just release the new video probably tomorrow.
Yeah,
And
I mean, if you release it tomorrow, we can get it on next hangout session.
Yeah.
one of those, yeah, and then I'll see if Johnny's available too because Johnny has some great insights also.
Of course, you know, we love our boy, of course.
Absolutely.
That's my man, by the way.
Yeah, that's our brother right there. He's another one that I've met, Omni, that we clicked straight on.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a real one. All right.
Yeah, of course. Of
Yeah,
course. He's the realist.
He's got a past too that he's recovered. He's recovering and still recovering from. He recovered through a lot of the rockiness of it, and he's still recovering even now, and he's just soaring in just awesomeness. So really proud of him.
Wow, I'd like to hear more about him, Mr. John.
Also, another dope dad. You know, we love those. You know, ladies.
Oh my gosh.
Ladies, hop on my boy. I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right.
All right. Moving on.
Hey, hold up. Okay, look, then there's also, the beloved sound.
No,
You know,
I'm off the grid. I'm off the grid. Nope, I am off
He's
the
running.
grid.
Oh,
He's running. Don't worry, I'll hold him down.
No, I am off the grid, everybody.
Good
No,
boy,
go that
good
way,
boy,
that way,
Sam
that way,
Lukaku.
that way.
All right, I'll be here.
Okay. All right, here we go.
Oh, I mean, I don't know what Omni's got going on, but I mean, if you want to get in on this, I'm just saying.
Oh, I'm open anytime you got.
Okay. All right.
Right, y'all. All right, here we go for the final one.
If you have suffered any social, emotional, or mental trauma, seek to heal from it. This may be as simple as genuine peer coaching, or it may require professional assistance. But you need to seek true, genuine, proper healing. This is the case for both Masamune and Aki. Masamune literally devoted his life to making Aki suffer the same emotional trauma he suffered from her. And instead of moving on or getting help to move on, he chose to live in the past. In the present time of the anime, Aki is not even able to emotionally harm him anymore. There may have even been a chance that if the two of them crossed paths naturally and he identified himself and she remembered him, he could have easily said that he would prefer not to be involved with her as he does not trust her. At the same time, with her current attitude, she most likely would have brushed off his statement. But strategies like that are 4 times more effective than life-compromising ones. Some of us may just be in that kind of status. We eagerly wait for the moment we can tell a person how we feel in the most dramatic way possible. But really all we are doing is harming ourselves with the excessive forms of stress, and the release of stress hormones
which can eventually cause permanent biological damage. Meanwhile, Aki is also trying to avoid her past by engaging in humiliating mannerisms as a defense mechanism, but she is in fact keeping herself in the past by doing so. Some of us may operate in the same mannerism. We hurt others to avoid being hurt. In some cases, because an action from another resembles the previous action, we become triggered and lash out. But then in some cases, we come to find out the motive of that new person's actions were not even the same as the previous. So then we drew blood from an innocent. We do not have to live this way. I have discovered one of the reasons why we don't seek genuine healing is because of our inexperience. Many of us have more experience in conflict, pain, and havoc than we do in healing and rehabilitation, in resolve. One common reason for that is botched upbringings. The very people who were our prime examples in dealing with conflicts oftentimes showed us how to handle them aggressively and even in manipulative ways. So for many of us, that's all we know. When we are introduced to healing and rehabilitation, it's often viewed as weakness. But what is so weak about letting go of what holds us down? What is so taboo about wanting to be stable? So we have two options. We can either explore the procedures in healing or reject the process and continue in the past. But in order to heal, it requires us to let go of certain things. You have to be tired of being angry. You must let go of replaying the negative events of the past. You must let go of the task you don't have the authority to do, which is disciplining or punishing your perpetrator. There is a difference between defending yourself and punishing someone. You must refocus your gravitation from the elements that only provide temporary relief and make the things that will actually cure you the primary factor. Some of us only want relief, while some are not ready for the cure, and that's usually driven by pride. One concept that is heard of, but oftentimes misunderstood, is forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean we are giving the offender a pass, nor does it equal condoning the offense. Forgiveness is releasing ourselves from the negative mental effects of the offense. When we have unforgiveness in our hearts, all of the traits of revenge are its byproduct. And looking at all of the self-destruction it does, is forgiveness really that bad? Even in the anime with Masamune, he committed unjustified acts toward Aki, which Aki's associates witnessed, and it gave him a bad image. Is unforgiveness really worth all of that for you? Can you really say, with the evidence thereof, that unforgiveness can bring you true peace? Or is it actually a mental prison that you just sit in with the door wide open for you to freely leave, but you don't? Forgiveness is really for you. Forgiveness is really for the one who was victimized, not for the perpetrator. It does not mean you have to forget, but learn from those incidents so you know how to avoid them in the future. It also does not mean you have to socialize with the perpetrator thereafter, as the trust is not there. It just means that you release yourself from the responsibility you don't have to punish them. As said before, there is a difference between self-defense and punishment. So I encourage you to consider forgiveness. Free your mind from the past you may be holding on to. If you can do that on your own, great. If you need to get help, get help, and do it for you. Develop yourself positively and grow into a better person. Learn from Masamune and Aki and be better. The method someone uses to disrespect us is their accountability. How we process it and what we do to ourselves in response to it is our responsibility. Only we can control how we operate. And guess what? The greatest revenge we can actually obtain is by progressing in our own life purpose and be successful in it. And doing that for ourselves. It is not our job to punish those who have harmed us. We are able to defend ourselves from immediate threats that jeopardize our safety, but babysitting the perpetrator with vengeful actions and in an authority we don't have is out of the question. Some of you who may watch this anime and may have watched this anime, you may have been expecting Aki to be emotionally abused just as she did to others. But how does that by itself fix the problem? Understand that the negative behaviors by both of these characters are symptoms. The underlying cause is unresolved pain, to which they are brainwashed by common worldly, prideful, temporary pleasures, when in reality, those behaviors only sustain the problem. They don't solve it. So how can we claim to be better than our perpetrator when we commit actions that sustain the known problems? See, too many times we get so fixed on revenge and punishment that we neglect to even consider rehabilitation, not just for them, but also for ourselves. Those who look like they feel good about the havoc they're causing, it's just a mask. They are actually paranoid inside. So let go of that desire for revenge. Instead, pursue to heal and rehabilitate, pursuing your life's purpose. Let's all do our part to break this cycle of dysfunction. Are there some lessons in this anime you noticed?
Well, how about it? Are there some lessons in this anime that you noticed? Oh goodness, that was something. Did I lose you guys? I think I lost them, folks.
No, you didn't lose us. I'm still hearing it.
Yeah, we're
Wait, you're still
here.
hearing it?
Yeah.
That's weird. Oh, I know what it is. It's probably the pre-post set on this thing. See, it's not a stream without scuff.
Yeah.
It's not a stream without scuff.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, the pre-post set is on here. That's why.
Fair.
I got a complicated mixer, folks. Okay.
You have a very complicated mixer.
He has all of the bells and whistles. He has all the bells and whistles.
Like, that is impressive how you still manage to operate everything. Honestly, I don't know. I would be lost every time I look at it.
It comes from the experience of doing live sound reinforcement for the past 22 years.
Yep. I don't know why I even question this. It's always just because of how many years you've been doing this, but it still just blows my mind every time.
Fair, to be honest. That, and he has a very inquisitive mind, so he's usually out there learning more anyway.
And it helps me pass the time.
But yeah, I completely agree with the end message. It's all about healing. Because to be honest, I was honestly thinking back and I realized my mind let go of all those things for me. But because it let go of all those things for me and those things were so present, I was so, like, I felt so empty. And then I remembered, like, something I used to love doing as a child was drawing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I used to get praised for it and all that too. So I told myself, you know what? I'll try drawing again. And every time I tried to draw, I realized how frustrating it was. Because I haven't drawn in so long. I haven't been myself and lived in my power for so long. There was just the anger and the trying to keep up with everybody's expectations of me and all of that. Like there was so much going on that I forgot who I used to be. And when I went back into who I used to be,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I came right back, man. I got right back out of there. I I leveled up, and honestly, I am very proud and happy for myself. Because sure, it might not have been the best life, but I feel like I've done a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why usually I end up saying statements like, "Damn, I'm old as shit," because I feel like I've lived a life, bro. I've lived a life. I've had my own like John Wick 1, 2, and 3 movie,
Oh my
and then I'm
goodness.
like at 4, like you know what? It's finally time to go home.
I'm glad to hear that, honestly, because that shit sucks.
Oh yeah,
Just
it
from
sucks, and yeah, sure. There's no end to frustrating people in life. We all know this, but the idea is that once you learn how to live in your power, how to live in your own happiness, and how to want to see yourself happy, and
Mm-hmm.
how to make yourself happy, and albeit not particularly temporary, but happy in the terms of being fulfilled and satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
A
Mhm.
lot of times, it's just water on a duck's back. It's gonna roll off because yeah, sure, you're temporarily angry because Sally or somebody is being a bit of a bitch. But yeah, moving on. Who cares? Who cares about Sally? Sally needs to worry about Sally's problems. You got shit to do. Take care of yourself. Go home, take a shower, a long hot shower, or a long cold shower, whatever you want.
Those do feel
You
good
you
though.
you, you go get some
Yeah,
to eat.
very.
You put yourself in front of your favorite show for a bit, at least an hour or something. Just soak in life, live. Who gives a shit about what happened 2 hours ago? That shit's the past. You're in the present. You control your life in the present. Nobody else.
Yeah,
That's your shit.
it's just that notion of what do you want to be important. There are certain
Yeah.
things that are going to be important, but then there's also some things that you can choose of that you would want to be important.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was my entire goal of getting through like all those classes and schools. I wanted to hurry up and get through them so I could always come back to the group and chat with the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
That was my motivation. I was like, let me get this goddamn freaking code sorted so I can come back and bother Sound and John. Ah! Like
This
freaking
guy.
Superman fast, like type in some Bruce Almighty shit. Like, I'm like trying my best. And honestly, I am blessed. I've had I wouldn't say the best support structure, but a support structure nevertheless. I know how it works, and I know that it does enough, and the rest I can handle. Which
Yeah.
is good. And on the other end, you also have to be there for your people in the support structure. You can't just take from people. You also have to take pleasure in giving people stuff as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
You
not all
can't.
just take. You give, and then that the right people will give to you, and that will be your
Right.
receiving.
Yeah, because to be real, yeah, there's lots of people that likes to give you gifts and all that stuff, but what matters is what they want to give you when you don't have anything to give them. Because a lot of people are willing to say, "Oh yeah, I love you" and all this stuff, but when shit isn't going okay, the
Mm-hmm.
first thing that they say is, "I hate you." And a lot of the times it's like, to be real, if you hate somebody, it's because you loved them at least at one point. But you've probably sat down on something and let the resentment build up to a point where it has become hate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times hate comes from unfulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
unsatisfaction. because especially in cases of love, if you don't say anything, how is the other person gonna know? If you don't express yourself,
Yeah, I don't think we should get into mind reading.
Nope.
I hear
don't think
Chernobyl.
we should
Yep.
get it.
Yep.
I don't think we should get into that. I don't think we should get into mind reading.
Um, but yeah, it's just one of those situations where, all in all, we really have to learn to pay more attention to ourselves. Nobody's gonna teach you how to do it, but trust me. If you want to learn how to do it, watch some of these videos. Because yeah, I'm not trying to just plug my boy. I get it. I get it. Like, oh, he's like, just watch some of these videos. Blah, blah, blah. Typical YouTuber bullshit. But listen.
Mhm.
You need to talk to somebody, or you need to listen to somebody at this point, because at this point, you need somebody to relate to. If you're going through some tough shit and you don't have nobody to relate to, you're gonna feel like it's you against the world. But you know what? A lot of people feel like it's them against the world. You're not the only one.
Mm.
That's why I said seek out people, have a support structure. There's lots of little things you can do that can improve your life today. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, it's not going to work off because, oh, you've never learned how to socialize. Then you need to learn how to socialize. You're going to have to do some trial and error. You're not going to be perfect. But if you're honest, and these people are honest with you, it's going to work. That's the only way it's going to work. You have to be honest. I'm not going to tell you go confess your sins to them like, Father, I've sinned, or Daddy, I have sinned. Whatever you want to say, that's your prerogative. My personal thing is this: you have to be genuine. If you're not genuine, then what are you trying to form here? You trying to form some sort of fake relationship where you can fake cry to them, and then they'd be like, "My baby, we're so sorry. We're so sorry that you had to go through such a harrowing experience." And then what? Then they'd say like, "You know what? I totally hate his fucking guts because this guy is always complaining about shit, and he ain't doing nothing to fix it."
Ay,
He,
ay, ay.
Sorry.
like, let's be real, and that goes for guys or girls.
Hmm.
Let's be real. Hey, if it's one thing I know, I've been around a lot of ladies. They always hate the whiny one. The whiny one is the one they hate the most.
Hmm.
But if you're genuine and somebody's being genuine with you and you can form a genuine connection with them, then yeah, why wouldn't you both connect on some level that is
Mhm.
beyond some metaphysical meme talk and you just tossing memes at each other in a freaking Discord server or some shit? Like, come on. Like, you have to be real with people.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like Lord, bruh, and Pam.
Yeah, bro.
I think
For real.
somebody's got some stories about that.
That's gonna be for another time.
Okay. What's any closing thoughts, Omni?
Honestly, no. It's everything that Incubus has said is very, very much true.
I
And
mean, he on point. He be on point.
yeah, honestly, it's just
I'm a
it's
preacher, but I prefer sound to be my preacher, real talk.
Oh my gosh, he did not just say that.
I agree. You know, I will still agree.
You know
Even-
what?
Even still, I agree. I'm not even trying to put that as a plug-in.
No,
I
no.
yes.
I'm gonna be in the background like, yes, God, the Lord. Yes, Jesus. Yes, preacher.
I mean, look, when it comes down to it, you like we've been addressing, we want everyone to have someone that is level to the ground and is willing to be there to give them guidance. And even people who give guidance need someone else to need guidance as well.
Yep.
So honestly,
No cap.
like chatting with freaking Sound, and when I first got to know him, and we actually had multiple deep ended conversation pieces, it was actually refreshing. It was very refreshing
It really is.
because
Mhm.
I give so many advice, and I try my best to not only give advice but live by what I tell, because it would be I'm not one to try and go back on what I teach. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it's like it can get pretty exhausting when even I like hit my walls of like moral choices or even just
Mm.
uh questioning quandaries.
Yep.
So this is what people need to find more of, like people who will sit down, have open chat. And now I have Incubus as another person I can definitely come to for
Yeah,
further advice
yeah.
and just general talks.
And then there's definitely John, you know,
Oh
when you
yeah.
get to meet good old
Yeah,
John.
well, I
But
mean,
to
well,
be
I mean,
real,
John.
though, I agree with Omni. Like, when I have my days and I'm like, I come to Sound and I'm like, Sound, bro, I fucked up, man. I did a fucky wucky, man.
It's
I
like, all right,
messed up.
here's your little bop. Boop. Okay. All right. Now
But,
let's get into the nitty gritties of it.
All
yeah,
right.
then I explain myself, you know, the thing. Even if I need to show chats or anything, like I'm like, am I wrong for thinking this? Like it's an understanding that you can bring yourself to a person who is trustworthy,
hmm
who will put you on the right track regardless if you want them to just agree with you or not. You have to be willing to accept that if you really want to heal and you really want to change what's going on in your life.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, whether you do right or wrong, your friend is supposed to put you right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if, oh, well, I don't really want to hurt your feelings, then that ain't a real fucking friend. You know?
The thing is it's not even them hurting the feelings. What's hurting the feelings is the misconduct. That's really what's hurting the feelings.
What's hurting the feelings is the truth. And a
It's
lot
not
of
even the
times what
truth.
it is people are willing to let other people drown because, oh, I will indulge your habits because you're my friend. That's not how any real friendship works.
That's enabling.
That's what people have come to call friends these days. Anybody that enables them because it's profitable for them.
Well, that's no different from basically consuming any substances out of proper moderation.
Yeah.
That's basically what's happening at that point, and eventually you're going to get sick.
Yeah. And
Yep.
that's regardless of if it's food, water, and or anything, because drinking too much water can kill you.
Yep.
Having too much of anything can kill you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay?
And having too much attention and validation, that's
It'll
also
kill you.
bad because it basically strokes your ego to the point you falsely believe you're now invincible. And there are
Yeah.
some people out there now that are actually believing that they are somehow invincible. So when consequence does materialize toward them, they are in utter cultural shock to say, wait a minute, my whole life I was protected from this. I was sheltered from this. What do you mean now
Mhm.
this is coming to fruition to where now I can't do anything to stop or to somehow deter consequence? Consequence is not supposed to happen to me.
Mhm. Yeah, happens a lot, bro. Happens a lot. But you know what's always the funniest part about those people is that they're definitely a slash and burn kind. They're willing to attack others in groups and be like, "Oh, you're the bad person. You're the." But when it's their
Oh
turn,
God.
they completely burn every trail. They destroy every last piece of evidence and they run. And I'm always just like, "Well, why are you running?"
Why
Yeah.
are you running? What
This
happened?
is the behavior you engage in. This is your culture. Why are you running from it?
So this is the same thing that I always tend to address is are we really or do we really hate misconduct or do we just hate being the non-prevailing party of misconduct?
I'm pretty sure it's a sacrament. I mean, me personally, even when I know that I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, I'm just like, bruh, I need to stop doing this shit. It pisses me off. It just really makes me angry, especially when it's something like I went into this, and sometimes it's like I'm dirty my hands so other people don't have to dirty their hands. Sometimes that's how I see it. I'm like, well, it's a necessary evil, but I'm just like, but it's still evil, man. Because that's where my conscience is at now. I've grown that back.
Yeah, I hear you.
I feel that. Yeah.
Well,
And I
gentlemen,
get it.
Gentlemen, we if we don't put a book
Yeah,
price on,
yeah,
we gonna go for hours.
We will be.
We
We're
we
gonna
will
be
be
here
going
all
till
night.
freaking 1 a.m. But,
Jesus.
but gentlemen, I sincerely appreciate your time here. And folks, let me tell you right now, just look forward to the next video in the life lesson series that's going to be posted sometime tomorrow, and that's going to be the next lesson in Chernobyl. If you want to get caught up with the first video, go ahead and do that on my channel. But also, let's just give these guys one more highlight because they've just been absolutely awesome. You know, it's hard to find people like these days. So if you find someone of this caliber, make sure you hold on to them and don't concern yourself so much about all the attention and validation. They will give you the right amount of attention and validation. But with that, let me get to some just closing announcements right now. And one starting with, of course, our highlights once again to our guests. And the one, of course, is Sir Incubus, who, of course, is just like a brother to me. We've known each other for many years now. Oh my gosh, we sound like we're old.
Many moons, my brother. Many moons.
But if you want to check him out, he's on YouTube. We got some videos on there. Voice for your pleasure.
Oh, stop. Oh my God, bro. You're embarrassing me.
And if you also just want to see what he's doing on Twitter, because we won't call it X for obvious reasons, he's on Twitter as well. And also those for Omnibus, you can check him out as well. He's definitely on Twitter as well. So there's his handle right there. There's his URL, as well as the content that he does on Twitch. And definitely some fun action and with action video games and half dozen. I mean, just look at that. Just look at that face. You just melt by that, combined with that silky smooth voice. I mean, come on now. Come on now.
Wow.
I mean, we got it. Come on, man. How can you not?
Yeah, it is.
But let me
honestly,
let me give you guys some stuff that's coming up next Thursday. If all goes well, there will be another venture in If My Heart Had Wings Flight Diary. Let's see if we can finish this off. So that'll be Thursday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and also on Friday there'll be more adventure of Resident Evil 4 at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. As well as on Saturday, if all goes well, then definitely do some more venturing in Super Mario 64. Hopefully we can get the rest of these stars, and maybe they'll get some better security around here. I mean, good heavens. But also just know that my primary outlet is my YouTube channel. So if you're watching on any of the other platforms, just know that this VOD will be on there as well, along with many other VODs. You've got VA role plays, which I'm working on some others as well. I've also got some visual novel playthroughs like the ones that you just saw, gaming playthrough archives, tech tutorials. I'm going to be working on some other stuff, even for some OBS tips and tricks.
You got it, man.
And then, of course, as I said before, there's more life lessons videos on there, so I definitely encourage you to check those out as well. Yeah, again, just check me out on Twitter. I tend to post a lot of stuff on there. I even post some life tips that I come up with that I just think about for myself, and I want to share them with you, as well as links to all of my media outlets. They're available on this master link on Linktree. And also, if you want to contact me for a project, whether it be for voiceovers, maybe even audio processing, then you're welcome to reach me on the destinations below. So thank you so much again for watching. Until next time, and as we always say, Incubus, happy mixing, everyone.
Happy mixing, everyone.
See you guys next time.